Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. With me is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
You look stupid. It's your scarf.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson.
Quick, suck it before the venom reaches my heart.
Wife Dork.
You mean they could still be living in a primitive state of neurotic irresponsibility?
And Brad Gullickson.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not going away anytime soon.
Mouth Dork.
If you love life, don't waste time. For time is what life is made up of.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warmer, disco.
The Disco Dork. I am incarcerated. And welcome to the It Modcast podcast.
Yay! It feels like forever since the last time we recorded, doesn't it?
It's been 1 week.
Yikes. Too long.
And guess what? It's Solar Eclipse Day.
I look directly at the sun. It's been weeks of people telling me not to fucking do that, and as soon as I'm outside, what do? I look directly at it.
I'm going to call you President Trump.
It's because I'm compulsive. You can't tell me not to do something.
Did you see the solar eclipse, Brian?
I did not. I was in the basement at work.
Oh, no.
Darren, did you see the solar eclipse?
I did.
Me too.
We have a radiology department at my clinic, so we just took out X-ray sheets and held them up and just looked through those.
Actually, I did see it.
No, you didn't. Don't try to be cool now.
I saw it on CNN.
God damn it.
I did the thing where you go outside with a colander because I was at home, so like our entire apartment complex was outside with their various devices. So I had my colander. So you hold your colander to the ground and you can see all of the crescents. Oh. And then one of our neighbor kids had made one of those pinhole boxes. So I got to look through the pinhole box. And then another neighbor who I had never even met before had recently had an MRI. So he had his MRI. Like I was like looking at the sun through his spine. It was nice. It was like a moment of togetherness in like my apartment complex, which never happens. Except for when it's science.
I had a coworker bring glasses from the British Science Institute in, and I thought they were legit until my eyes started burning. That's not a joke.
My eyes, the goggles, they do nothing.
But that being said, it was pretty rad.
It was cool.
I thought it was super cool.
Do you remember the last one in like 1991?
Nope.
I remember because I was in elementary school, so we all went outside to look at it, but I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to do or what I was supposed to look at, so I was outside for it, but I did not get it.
Did you all get to see it at peak? Like, was it crescent or was it like fully eclipsed when you all took a look at it?
It was almost fully eclipsed.
Yeah, you can't get the full eclipse here, but we got like to a sliver.
Was mostly blacked out?
It basically looks like dusk outside. You know,
yeah.
You know, but our friends Jenna and Jill, they went down to South Carolina and they had totality, and the photos that they took are stunning.
Watching that on the news, because they had shots, obviously they had a picture in window of the sun, but then like the main image was of the people, and it looked like it was totally dark outside. It was so weird.
And that only lasts like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So cool.
But even more exciting than the solar eclipse is that, guys, I brought us all to celebrate Darren's birthday and my birthday. We have in front of us Bruce T. Not Bruce Lee. It's Bruce T.
Do we all have the same flavor? I have passion fruit, orange, and guava.
Yep, that's called 1 Inch Punch.
Yes.
And it is. I'm just going to read this real quick because it comes from Shannon Lee.
Yes.
She's putting out her dad's philosophy, and Bruce T is inspired by my father's personal recipes. As part of his daily practice, he would blend varieties of tea with ingredients such as ginseng, royal jelly, and honey for their mental and physical benefits. With Bruce Tea, we have created a unique balance of flavor, quality, and authenticity. We hope that you enjoy Bruce Tea and that it brings you closer to the life you envision.
I'm
excited. To shake it before you drink it.
Yeah, so it's not carbonated.
Yeah, so you shake it. You shake it.
Yeah, that's how you know it's legit tea, because all the good shit's on the bottom, like yogurt.
It's and okay.
There's yogurt in the bottom of this tea?
Ew.
Or you were saying like...
I'd like yogurt
I gotcha.
with the good fruit on bottom.
Okay. Oh, excuse me.
All right. Okay. Cheers.
No, I want
Oh shit. You want some of mine.
I want to taste it. Okay, that's good. Ready?
He's saving his
Are we
hand.
going to toast?
Yeah, toast.
It is a little foamy.
Toast to Bruce Lee.
Yay, and his philosophies may they live on forever.
And me, and toast to me.
And Darren's birthday.
And Darren's birthday.
And Brad's birthday.
And Brad's birthday.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'm not usually like a green tea fan, but it's a mix of black tea and green tea, so it kind of cuts the green tea-ness.
I probably shouldn't have drank this while drinking my caramel frappuccino.
Well, I mean, I also just downed a white chocolate mocha.
Yeah, I just had nice coffee. This place is powered by Starbucks.
Yep.
So yeah, Shannon Lee, if you're listening, we would love for you to be sponsors of It Modcast.
Whoa!
It would sound a lot like this.
Where we drink tea?
If you doubt our commitment to your father's legacy, you should listen to our It Mod Spotlight, a 6-episode series that we did earlier in the year.
Yes.
Highlighting the legend and the cinematic life of Bruce Lee. And yeah, I just...
And I can always go back and insert advert spots into those episodes.
You're damn right. So, yeah, ignite your day. Get some Bruce Tea.
Well, I have to say this. Of course, you all know that I love you. And I'm not talking to you listeners. I'm talking to Brad and Lisa and Brian.
Aww.
But I love y'all too, listeners. But this is like the best birthday gift ever. Because you know how much I love Bruce Lee. And that's just a really cute idea, Bruce T. I get it. I see what they did there.
And the can is super cool looking.
Well, you got a Bruce Lee doing his flying kick from
the Big Boss.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is awesome, man. So I have this can. I'm never going to open it. This will go on my countertop next to my the Last Dragon Show Nuff beer. I have a Show Nuff can of Show Nuff beer with him on the front. But this is Bruce Lee. So
when did he have time to make his own combination of tea?
Breakfast.
Yeah.
Breakfast time.
I guess.
Bruce Lee did more before breakfast than most people do all day. He's
That's true for me.
the man,
certainly.
the myth, the legend. So
I watched 3 episodes of Girls.
So thank you, everyone, Brad, Lisa, for this birthday gift. Brian, where is my birthday gift from you? How about you just do this? How about you give me your week in Dork?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Put me on the spot.
What'd you do, motherfucker?
Giving you 17 years of friendship, motherfucker.
Good answer. Good answer. Okay.
You can't return that shit at the store, can ya?
I don't know. I need the receipt.
I'm going to start off. It was actually been a pretty good weekend for me, personally.
Hung out with Idmod at Winchester. Oh, wait, you didn't.
No, I actually had to work. Had a wedding, had a bat mitzvah.
Oh.
But did you work? Because I'm about to hear your week in Dork, and it seems like you found several hours.
Time management, man. Time management. I saw The Hitman's Bodyguard. We'll skip over that.
Oh, damn. Damn, really?
Yeah, for me at least.
Okay.
But I was able to binge The Defenders and, of course, Game of Thrones. So those are actually going to be the 2 things I'll talk about. Defenders, I'll just talk about a little bit.
How many episodes of The Defenders were you able to see?
All of them. 8.
Damn.
8.
It's a short season.
Yeah, it's a short season, 8 episodes. So I know you, Mouth Dork, haven't finished it yet, and
no
Brad
spoilers.
Has no interest.
It's only been out for like 2 days, so you know.
So I just but you saw the first episode.
I did.
So I'll just kind of give you a little bit kind of setup of what you saw and kind of just my overall thoughts. I love the setup of how we get all the individual defenders, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and Iron Fist, and they're all like on their separate journeys, and it feels very natural the way everything kind of comes together. And the thing I really like about it is how it really leads in nicely from their individual seasons, from where we see Luke Cage getting out of prison and him wanting to help this young kid in Harlem. Then you have Jessica Jones, who's tracking this case with this architect. You have Matt Murdock, who's hung up the mantle of being Daredevil, but he kind of gets dragged back in. And then Iron Fist is almost kind of like the linchpin that kind of moves the story kind of forward. And so a lot of that kind of really circles around him. But I like the fact that the show really takes its time and lets it breathe, that we really don't get to see them unite like right away. You really get to follow their individual stories before they really come together. So when they do come together, and you'll see it.
Do they come together in the last episode?
No. It's you want me to tell you which episode?
Yes.
3.
Oh, okay. All right. So
and it's done in a really cool way.
So just 2 hours.
Yeah, it's done in a really cool way. So I like.
How many of those hours are devoted to Iron Fist?
Well, Iron Fist feels really like a main character, but see, we talked about this a little bit off air. So I know that
I'm trying to replay the magic, Brian.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't tell the listeners that we talked about this shit without them.
Well, I mean, we do have our banter back and forth beforehand, but I feel like we see this on social media a lot. A lot of people like to harp on Iron Fist for it being a shitty show. Now, I didn't watch Iron Fist, and I wanted this to be my introduction to the character. And for me, not having seen Iron Fist, I like what I've seen from the character of Danny Rand. I like his inclusion into this story. So I think that it works well, and I think using him as like the inciting incident or the device to move the story forward, I think is a really cool way in doing that. So I don't really see, and like I said, I can't speak to the individual season of Iron Fist. I know a lot of people maybe have problems with Finn Jones. Watching him in this series, the only criticism I have about Finn Jones is like just the way he talks in this whispery voice all the time. Like he's always like, I mean, he has a couple of moments with Luke Cage where he feels lighthearted, and he has that boyish quality.
Do we get a Heroes for Hire moment? Like,
there's a lot of moments.
So, but is there, when you watch it, do they feel like they belong together, Luke Cage and Danny Rand?
That's hard for me to say. I could see them moving forward.
So by the end of this, they're not like buddies, pals, BFFs.
No, I wouldn't say they're BFFs. No, but they do have moments where you see them really trying to cultivate that relationship. A lot of moments in it, actually. I think you'll see it probably in the next episode.
So, I mean, here, I haven't watched the rest of the Defenders. I watched the first episode. And they have not come together in that episode. No. And here's the challenge with adaptation, right? Yeah. So in the comic books, Heroes for Hire, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, that is one of the all-time great partnerships in comic books. That's a huge responsibility to drop onto two actors, especially if they don't share a chemistry.
A chemistry together, yeah.
And having not seen these two actors together, I just don't see them clicking. Now, maybe when they do, the chemistry sparks, and I'll feel a wave of relief. But that's where my tension really lies with the Defenders, is seeing Iron Fist and Luke Cage together and going, you know what? They're not going to be a team. And if that's the case, if they don't have the chemistry, I don't want Heroes for Hire to happen. Well, it's sort of like with Jessica Jones and Luke Cage versus Jessica Jones or versus Luke Cage and Claire Temple, right? Yeah. You see them trying to make the relationship happen in the Jessica Jones show, and it almost feels. By the end of Jessica Jones, you're like, okay, I could see these two actors finally coming together or eventually coming together as a couple. But then you see Mike Coulter and Rosario Dawson in the Luke Cage show, and they have genuine chemistry, and I'm already bought into their relationship, and I want to see them succeed over anything that the comic books might want to force upon the Netflix series.
Yeah, I feel that a little bit, but for me, I think time will only tell, because I don't have that frame of reference for the Heroes for Hire. Now, I know of Heroes for Hire, but I don't have that framework going into this.
Well, most people don't, and if the chemistry doesn't work, we shouldn't force that relationship on a TV show.
Yeah.
If the chemistry's not there,
Yeah.
to satisfy, the basement dwellers like myself.
And I don't think that they are going to do like a Heroes for Hire series. I mean,
I was going to say that's probably why they don't have that type of relationship in the Defenders, because I don't think Netflix is planning right now to even move in that direction. So,
but like,
you might see them cross over, but I don't think you're going to have a series with the two of them.
But like, I don't know, and you have a better idea than I do, but I don't know if that relationship will ever solidify in any way, in any form, in this series or another series or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they have some great moments, and there's some really good dialogue between Luke Cage and Iron Fist, where he calls him out on like his billionaire privilege, and him being like this hero from Harlem, trying to do good for the people in Harlem, and just him, like this rich boy that's, feel like he's like playing a superhero or playing like this guy. So there's some interesting conversations being had between the two of them. And there's also a lot of friction between them as well. And you'll see it too, because you'll see Iron Fist's part, and because he plays a big part in this, and you'll see where a lot of that friction comes from between the rest of the Defenders and Iron Fist. And all the other secondary characters play a big part. Stick plays a big part in this as well. And I like how they really utilize a lot of the secondary characters to support a lot of the main characters, where we see like Foggy and Karen and Trish and Misty Knight, and Colleen Wing, and there's some really, really cool moments with the secondary characters. That I think plays into a lot of the comic stuff too.
When they all do finally come together, is there a relationship? Like, is there a moment that excites you about these four heroes in a room together, the same way that you saw that in Joss Whedon's The Avengers?
Yeah, for me it was episode 4, and you'll see that, and they play with that a lot in episode 4 when they meet up in 3, but episode 4 when it really takes place in almost like one central location, and you see that back and forth between all the different dynamics from all the different characters. So you have the moments with Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, even Luke Cage and Daredevil with Matt Murdock. There's so many different dynamics that they play with all four of them, getting to know each other, them dealing with their different ideas of how they want to move forward with the situation. So I really, really enjoy it. It feels like something taken straight out of a comic book, where you have all four of these characters in the same room talking with each other. I really, really like that episode. So,
do you feel like they do anything or build upon that in the subsequent episodes?
Yeah. I think there's the relationships between Jessica Jones and Daredevil, I think works really well together. And then I think they do build on that. I mean, 8 episodes, there's only so much you can do. Because I don't want to get into spoilers with the villains and
don't you do it? No.
And
shh.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed the Defenders. I thought it was a really.
How would you size it up against Daredevil season 1 and 2, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and I guess not Iron Fist?
Yeah, I thought it was a great combination of bringing all these characters together. I don't think it's probably my favorite out of all the individual series. Like I had so much fun watching this show from every episode, and it got me emotionally invested towards the season finale. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's probably the best that they've done.
Do you think the 8 episodes is the right way to go rather than 13?
I think so. It didn't feel too rushed for me. Again, I like the fact that we don't see them come together, and then when they do, everything just feels like it's a nice progression of all the characters. So yeah, I think between 8 to 10 episodes, I think works well for me. 13.
I mean, that's always been my biggest complaint against all of the Marvel Netflix shows is there's a lot of filler.
Yeah, which you wouldn't think you would have in a 13-episode season. So,
yeah,
I don't know, but
that guy, the one. Okay, so the girl that's with Iron Fist,
Colleen Wing.
Yeah. So the guy that she has her confrontation with at the end, with the is that the dude from Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, right? The guy that is Sam Witwicky's college roommate.
Now, is it?
I'm asking because I feel like that's that guy.
Oh,
that's him.
You know what? I think it is.
That's him, right? Because I was like, he looks familiar.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got like a beard and a
Raymond Rodriguez.
Yeah. That dude looks like. I thought that was him. I just didn't. I didn't have the.
Yeah, I know he. And that's the thing, because me not seeing Iron Fist, I had to kind of fill in the blanks, which wasn't really that hard. So and plus I saw a video that kind of on YouTube that kind of
You didn't just read
Cliff Notes watching Defenders.
Yeah.
You could have just read the Wikipedia paragraph.
Yeah. True, but I mean, it works though, man. I personally, I know everybody has different feelings about Marvel Netflix. I personally enjoy these series. I know they all don't really hit all the way through, but for what they're doing, I like this little corner of the MCU that they've created. So I've enjoyed it.
I loved Luke Cage. When does the next season of Luke Cage come out?
They're filming now. So right now they're filming Jessica Jones season 2 and Luke Cage season 2. So I'm thinking after Punisher, which I think hits later this year. Right. Jessica Jones season 2 will be next, and then Luke Cage season 2.
Feels like so long.
Yeah, and then Daredevil season 3 I think kicks off. They start filming in October.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about Daredevil season 3.
Damn. All right.
So that's the Defenders. I enjoyed it. I got a 2-part review on YouTube. So if you've seen it, check it out. And I also watched Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
We're not going to become like weekly Game of Thrones catch-up podcast, are we?
No, I think only on Mondays.
Lisa,
when we record.
let Brianna of Tarth have his moment.
I like that, Bray. You just thought of that?
Right off the top of my head.
Oh, man. I like it.
Nobody else at this table came up with that. Nobody.
So yeah, we are episode 6 of Game of Thrones season 7. This is the penultimate episode before the season finale next week. Leading into this episode from last week, we saw the 7 samurai, Magnificent 7 of Winterfell of the North head north beyond the wall, which is the name of this episode, and we pick up literally right where we left off. And again, the thing that I love about Game of Thrones is with all the stakes and the tension that this show builds, they are able to just bring in those moments of levity that I absolutely love, that they have kind of just flourished throughout this whole series. And we see that in the beginning of this episode. And what I like about it is that we get moments with a lot of these different characters who haven't really seen each other. So we get moments with Jorah and Jon Snow when they talk about the sword that Jorah's father gave him.
Such a good moment.
Such a great
Long
moment.
Claw.
Yeah, Long Claw. And
when he doesn't take it.
I know, and he gives it to and then we see how that plays out there. Okay. And the moments with 2 of my favorite characters, Tormund and the Hound, which a lot of the comedy comes from.
But did you think he was dead? At the end, Tormund, you were like, "Oh my god, it's gonna happen!"
Dude,
this is it.
Zombie dog
this
pile?
is it,
dude. You should, man.
When I was watching it in bed, Lisa was falling asleep next to me, and I was like, "Oh no, Brian's gonna be so upset."
I literally stopped breathing for a minute, like when he started dragging, and because they set it up nicely in the beginning when the Hound hesitates when the bear attacks, and that causes Thoros to get hurt. And so you see that moment again towards the end when I was like, because I love that moment too, because in the beginning when they're having that conversation about Brienne, and Tormund, he's like, if I make it back alive, there's a woman waiting for me, and the Hound realizes who he's talking with. He's like, Brienne fucking Tarth, and he's like, you know her. He's like, yeah, it's like, we're going to make babies together.
Like a giant fucking babies.
Giant babies. And I was like, and in that moment towards the end, I'm like, no, he's got to get back to Brienne. He's got to make babies with her.
It's not going to happen.
I know, because she doesn't even know that he is swooning for her. That's crazy.
I mean, she's felt his creepy leers. We've seen her respond to his creepy leers.
That's going to be the name of my punk band. Creepy Leers.
Yeah.
That's how I got Lisa, by the way.
I'm playing cowbell.
Creepy Leers, that's right. I'm a real sucker for the
giant leers.
the leers. The leers and jeers. I have low self-esteem.
No. But great moments in the beginning. Great moments in the beginning to set everything up. So a lot of the stuff, and then we intercut back in Winterfell with Sansa and Arya, and I don't know how I'm feeling.
Where do you fall on this?
I've been thinking about this a lot. Now, granted, I watched this around 1 o'clock in the morning last night, so I've been kind of processing this, and I've been talking about this with some of my coworkers today at work. Again, I don't know where I fall on where Arya is heading with all this.
Or Sansa.
Or Sansa. And the fact that Littlefinger is telling her, like Littlefinger told her, like, okay, Brienne is vowed to protect both of the Stark sisters. So, like use her. But then like Sansa sends her away to King's Landing. But did Littlefinger tell her that knowing that she would send Brienne away? And like, what is Sansa? It's not like they're going to attack or kill each other. Or is that what Littlefinger... Like, I don't understand what Arya is... I mean, especially
I totally understand both points of view. That's what's so great about Game of Thrones.
I understand both points of view, but I think Arya needs to understand where Sansa was when
Arya's been living in a cloud of hate this entire show.
Here's my... Can I do it? Can I do it? Disco's theory?
Yeah.
All right. I think Arya is playing the game. If she gets Sansa to react this way, she can lure Peter out. She can call him out on his shit. I think she's playing the game to get her to react that way, to get Peter to further do what he's trying to do.
Yeah, but Sansa still reacts that way. And
that's fine.
Then what do you got to do with her?
All that matters is that friggin' Arya doesn't stab Sansa. Because in that moment, and I didn't think about this until after the fact, but in that moment, I was like, oh shit, she's gonna freaking kill her sister? Like, is she gonna go that far? Like, what does that do for the rest of the show? But the fact that when she says, so what are you gonna do with that letter? The fact that Arya hasn't done anything yet, like she's doing things to get a reaction out of Sansa.
Yeah.
She wants her to know that she knows. She wants her to behave a certain way. So that leads me to believe that if she was going to do something to her, whether it be stab her, kill her, or put out there that this is what your so-called Queen of the North is truly as a character, she would have done that already. I think she's playing the game.
But do you think that Sansa has passed a point of no return morally?
No. I don't think the whole
Sansa?
thing.
Yeah, no. Sansa.
I see.
I mean,
there's a part of her I think maybe who would like to rule Winterfell, but what Arya is implying, I don't think that that's 100% true of Sansa. I do think that she wrote that letter under duress.
Yeah.
And at that time she was a kid, and she was freaking married to Joffrey. Like, that's freaking nuts.
But she has been wooed by the finer things in life.
Yeah.
She has.
And Arya calls her out on that. But they got to understand that was like, and Sansa told her, I was a child then. Like, they've both been on their journey, and she tells her, like, you don't know what I've been through.
That's the thing. At that point, I want Sansa to go like, here's all the horrible things that happened to me.
Like, look, I've been sold off and married to two of our enemies. I've been raped. I've been all this stuff.
And I want Arya then to say everything she's been through.
Exactly.
Get it all out there, children.
Yeah.
See, I don't think that, again, if my theory is correct, Arya doesn't even need to hear all that, because truth be told, she is on her sister's side. Because you got to think, Arya knows how fucked up and how sneaky Baelish is.
Yeah.
Remember when she spent that entire season at that place being a helper or whatever?
Tywin's helper.
So technically, she was working for the Lannisters. She didn't take an opportunity to kill the people.
She was doing that for survival.
Exactly, just like Sansa did. So in the grand scheme of things, she didn't do anything different than what Sansa did. She had an opportunity to stand up and against the people that wronged her family, like she said Sansa should have did. She didn't do that. But I don't think that's her true intent what she's saying to Sansa. I think she's playing the game. Unfortunately, Sansa is in the middle of a mindfuck game between Peter and Arya. And I love that because Peter is an OG conniver. He's an OG schemer. He's doing what he does best. Arya is using the skills she learned at that place. Yeah. And I think that's what's happening right now. Unfortunately, Sansa is the pawn of it. Yeah. And it's going to be, I guarantee you there's going to be a moment where Peter think he's talking to somebody and she's going to freaking, Arya's going to rip a mask off and it's not going to be, and he's going to be like, oh shit, I said the wrong stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, she almost alludes to that in that one scene with Sansa. She was like, look, I can, if I want to, I could become you. You know, implying that at that moment because she has the dagger that she was going to kill.
But I don't think she meant it in that way.
No, you're right. But I don't know, man. It's the fact that I just don't know how this is going to play out.
I just want to get in Sansa's head. I want to know what she's thinking in that moment. Where is she actually right now? What is her end game?
I think, but in that moment when she finds the faces and the moment when she's confronted by Arya, I think that she thinks that her sister is about to kill her.
I know,
she's genuinely afraid
of
her. Yeah.
But what I'm asking is what does Sansa want? Does Sansa want to be Queen of the North?
I don't. But why? I don't see any motivation for why she would want to be.
Her behavior leading up to this moment. But there has been her main thing. First of all,
finer things.
Not even that, but after. Look at what she's been through. I don't think that's been on her mind. She's had to just worry about surviving Joffrey, surviving Ramsay, and now they're just reestablishing Winterfell. And as they're reestablishing Winterfell, all this shit starts to take place. John comes back, so I don't think she's had time to sit there.
But as Arya is confronting her on what she's done in the past and what she could potentially do now, is Arya correct in pointing out her sins?
I don't. Maybe there may be some sliver of truth to it. I don't think so. But I think a lot of what Sansa's reaction is not the fact that, oh shit, what you're saying is true. There's some truth to it. But like she said, I don't even know you anymore. Who are you? Like, why are you acting this way? Because again, it's a stark contrast to the last time she saw her, and now she's a master assassin. She's seen her physically hold her own against Brienne of Tarth. So she's looking at a totally different person.
If they come to blows, who do you want to come on top?
Oh, Arya.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's not going in that direction. They're not going to come to blows. It's not going to happen.
I'm gonna make you pick.
It's not going to happen. Arya is using her. Arya is using her to draw Peter out. I guarantee. I put money on it.
Yeah. This is the game between the two of them. I don't know if it's going to play out next week or next season, but I want to see how this ends. Yeah, it's probably going to end with.
It won't end this season.
No, I don't think it will. But Danny, the dragon.
I told you he was coming.
Ice
okay.
Dragon.
It's okay.
Fucking Night King,
Makes
man.
for good drama.
It does, man. It does.
When he reaches for that, not even when he reaches for the spear, when he just puts his hand out, the Night King. Oh, you're just like, oh no, dragon gone.
When they run out to that island and they're surrounded. I tweeted, I put that out on Facebook. I was like, oh, the only way they're getting out, they're gonna have to send a dragon to rescue.
And then
good. When they showed Dany dive off the cliff with her dragon and the other two followed, that's when I sent out, one of them dragons ain't coming back. Because if she had went by herself, I would have felt like, okay, they're not going to kill the only dragon that rode out there. But when the other two went with her, I was like, you know what? One of them's not coming back.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Man. What the hell does this mean, though, now for this war?
Well, that's how the whites get over the wall. They're going to destroy the top of the wall, which, if you remember from previous assaults on the wall, a lot of the defenses came from the top of the wall, preventing them from entering on the bottom. With the dragon now, they can just lay waste to the top. They can make their way through the wall. That's how they're going to break through to the north.
Yeah.
And so,
I just think that was just a dumb idea for Jon Snow to go beyond the wall to try to capture a white to bring it back.
Well, but you look at the people he was trying to talk to. Dany herself would not believe it until she saw it. That's why she said she doesn't regret going, because
I think it was a fine idea. I think maybe Danny bringing all those dragons with her was the dumb idea. She didn't know what she was getting into.
Well,
She's also coming from a place of complete and total ego.
Yeah.
You know, her hubris is going to potentially destroy her.
But this event, this particular thing, unfortunately, had to happen because of what Brad just said. It had to happen because of what Brad just said to bring her down from that. Because up until this point, she was in danger of destroying herself.
Well, yeah, and so, that's why I love that moment between her and Tyrion right before they leave.
But also, and that's why you get this Danny that has the conversation with Jon after the event.
Yeah,
so now
and because you're right, because that brings her down. Now she realizes the stakes of what's going on now with what's going on beyond the wall, and that was a great moment between the two of them. Now she knows the fight that she's up against. So I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know how that's going to lead into next week when they have this meeting with Cersei.
We get the Hound back in King's Landing with his brother, the Mountain. Clegane Bowl next Sunday. It's happening, folks.
Oh man, damn, that might be a better fight than Mayweather McGregor.
It's happening next Sunday, folks. Which I don't know. Going back to what you said earlier, I want to be real quick because Lisa had a week in Dork as well. Just that the character work from the Hound, like he's this, he says what he thinks. He doesn't mince his words. A lot of the times it's really crude. He gives two shits about anything. He's fearless, except when it comes to something as simple as fire to other people in his group. And that moment was really shocking because, Hound would be the one that said, he was the one that said, okay, for fuck's sake, are we going or not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he sees this fire and he's helpless. And I think to have such a strong character with such, a personal weakness like that, I really think that just makes for a compelling character. So I'm really looking for, I like his character progression.
Yeah,
from
he's probably one
first
of the
season
best.
to where we are now. So I'm looking forward to him coming to terms with his, the source of that fear, which is the Mountain. He's the cause of that.
Yeah.
And so for him to, and I think the Hound is another chosen one by the Lord of the Light for him to be able to look through the fire, see the place,
see
you know what I'm saying, and then it be the fire that he sees and looks into, and the Lord of the Light speaking to him through the fire, which plays such a huge part in his personality and his character right now. I think that's just like poetic justice. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Last thing, where the hell did they get those chains?
They made them.
Okay.
They can't make chains.
They got chains?
Where they got weapons? They got chains.
Yeah, why they can't have
pull
chains?
To pull that dragon.
Are you really? Is that your question? In a show about
where'd they get their freaking saddles for their horses?
Why are their eyes blue?
But those chains were underwater. How did they?
No, they swam down. They got those chains from someplace else. One of their White Walkers made those chains. They went down into the ocean or the lake or whatever.
When it happened, that's my first thought. Where the hell did they get those chains from?
Where'd they get anything?
Maybe,
don't be that guy. Come on, don't be that guy, Brian.
Just don't watch it then, Brian.
No,
just quit.
Hate the show.
Just quit.
That was a real quick turnaround for you, B.
No.
Wow, you get on now. You shit in the show.
That's where you draw your line.
Yes.
The chains.
Yeah.
Not the ice dragon and the zombie polar bears.
Really?
Nah. Chains.
Really?
I need to know where they got them from.
I've just told you they had them.
Stay tuned. It's going to be revealed in the next episode. All right.
No.
Anyway, I'm cutting your mic off. Lisa.
I love post what is this show called? Game of Thrones, Brian, versus post Walking Dead, Brian. Because post Walking Dead, Brian was so sad and exhausted.
Huge difference, right?
And he's energized. He's like a whole new person, a whole new Turtle Dork.
I don't even know him anymore.
Thrones Dork, Chains Dork. That sounds stinky.
Game of Thrones, man, it turned me around.
All right,
turned me around.
Only one more
Vivacious.
week of recaps, Lisa.
Thank God.
All right.
By the way,
I have a rhetorical question for you, Wife
I feel
Dork.
like this is it's like the Super Bowl every Sunday. I'm just seriously, what side am I on? I don't even fucking
I'm telling you, Lisa, when this season's over, I know I've already promised to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer
That's
with
right.
you. But after we rewatch 7 seasons of Buffy, we're going to have to do Game of Thrones.
And
by rewatch, he means watch because he has never watched Buffy.
Oh, you've never watched Buffy?
I've seen the first season.
I doubt he's seen the first season.
Lisa, before you, you were in my life, I owned the first 3 seasons, and I watched the first season, and I watched the first 2 seasons because it's Elijah Dushku who shows up in the 3rd season as Faith.
Yeah.
And when Dushku showed up, I was like, and I'm out.
Oh,
I can see that happen.
I like Eliza.
Deuces.
I like Eliza Dushku, man. She's like
Five
one of my.
by five.
She's like
Why?
She's one of my crushes.
Why?
I like her.
From what?
I don't know. I just do.
She looks dirty.
That's why he likes her.
Yeah.
Lisa,
Maybe,
rhetorical question. How was your week in Dork?
I had a great week in Dork.
Yep.
Brad and Disco
Yeah.
and I went down to the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester, our podcast's home, Alamo.
Yep.
And we watched Psychorama.
Movies.
The Psychorama Film Festival.
Shout out to Faye and Psycho Cinema.
Faye killed it this year. Such a bizarre variety of films.
That's a fact.
I do want to go film by film because
Okay.
I think each film is worth to say something about it. But I obviously don't want to dwell on it, especially after we had to listen to Game of Thrones for 90 minutes. I'm sure we've.
I'm sorry.
I think Brad and myself, we're gonna share our week in
My
Dork.
week in Dork was also Psychorama.
We
Lisa.
spent our week in Dork as a threesome, holding
right.
hands.
Yep. So
singing
that's how we
Kumbaya,
should do our
watching weird
podcast.
flicks.
All right.
So yay! So it started with.
It began without warning, Lisa.
That's right. The short film, produced by
Efren Ramirez.
That's right.
Known as Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Better known.
Oh, he directed it?
No, he produced it.
Oh, okay.
Better known, though, Brian, not as Pedro. What's his most awesomest, greatest character?
Subjectively.
Objectively.
No idea. I don't know.
I don't even know his name.
What else has he done?
Wow. You just asked for a can of
What-
worms open.
What? Looks like I've got to do some ItMod homework assignments.
Can of worms open.
Crank high voltage.
Why would you do that to yourself, Pete?
Come on, man. You've been wanting to talk about that since we started this podcast.
You're damn right. The next film club, man, we're doing Crank 2. Shit, I just decided that. I know Lisa gets to pick the next film club, but then I get the one after that. Oh, yeah. Crank 2, high voltage.
You're just going to skip the first one, huh?
No, you're damn right. First one's pretty good. Crank 2 is art.
That movie is fucking nuts.
Anyway, yes, Efren Ramirez produced It Began Without Warning. The film is actually directed or co-directed by Santiago Tapia and Jessica Curtright.
Yes, and it's 6 minutes long. And in terms of short film, it's a really short film.
Mm-hmm. So short. Okay.
It's a creepy kid's, I guess, possession / demonic presence.
It opens with a close-up of a corpse on the ground. The camera pans up, and there's a guy covered in blood holding a hammer. And then the camera jettisons down the corridor where you find a child also covered with blood.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's how these two individuals clash.
Right. In its 6-minute runtime, it manages some pretty fun visuals. Particularly, I enjoyed the pregnant lady getting the drill to the belly button.
Oh, okay.
That was fun. Just a little quirky little short film. What do you think of it, Darren?
I don't know because I did not catch that one.
Yeah, he didn't join us, but until the next day.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I dug it. I really liked it. As you were saying, 6 minutes, you don't have a lot of time. It told a complete narrative.
Yeah.
And was it the typical type of short where it's set up for like a twist ending or like a surprise
No,
ending?
it was pretty straightforward.
I appreciate those types.
It was just
Like that.
this is the situation and this is what it would be like. I guess there's a second where you go, this is an isolated incident and it's solved. But then it turns out it's not an isolated incident kind of thing.
That's cool.
They could certainly expand it into a feature, but I thought it was it excelled in its length.
I think we got all we
format.
needed from that little story.
That's
I thought
interesting
6
that you
minutes
have
is
that
enough
sentiment,
minutes.
Brad, because you have some thoughts on the
On-
opposite.
on other films. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, we're going to get to that. But sometimes you watch a movie and you go like, that should have just been a short film. And there are a few at Psychorama that I believe this to be the case. And then sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, I'd watch 80 minutes of that. That's key, 80 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, I think so often we're trying to hit a 2-hour runtime, and that is a mistake. I think for horror films in particular, 80 minutes is a sweet spot.
Yeah,
And I think
agree.
there is a shitty, wonderful, gross little horror film that can be blown up in 80 minutes from this short.
I don't know. To me, it came across as a little bit like, even though it was a horror thing, it also was like a little bit hokey jokey.
Yeah.
And so I got it in 6 minutes. I don't need any more. Anyway, then our first full length feature was You Better. How literate am I? Better Watch Out.
Yeah.
Which is directed by Chris Peckover. It is a Christmas horror film, a particular delight of the horror genre. About this kid. He lives in a relatively safe neighborhood. He has a hot babysitter. The hot babysitter is kind of teasing him about his crush, kind of not leading him on, but treating him like a kid brother kind of thing. And he's decided that tonight is the night I'm going to make my move. And then
it's basically Adventures in Babysitting with a psychopath involved.
Right. I guess so. And Adventures in Babysitting, they have adventures. They pretty much stay in.
That's true.
They stay in. It's Home Alone. It's a Home Alone film with a babysitter twist, I guess.
And they specifically call out Home Alone on multiple occasions over the course of this movie.
Because that's what it's about.
Yep.
Yeah, and I, going off of what Darren said just a few minutes ago, I felt like this was a short film blown out to a feature length. And while there's at least one significant twist that happens at the midway point of this movie that had me go, ooh, from that point on, it did not elevate its concept.
I think that I think that there was a lot of directions it could have gone after the initial twist that would have made the climax of the film even more exciting. Like, I think that it's a great subject for a feature-length film, and they didn't explore it properly. I thought it could be a lot more suspenseful. I thought it could have been a lot gorier and more ridiculous. I think that they could have played on that Home Alone thing even further, because there was really only like one Home Alone type incident, and like comparing it to Tragedy Girls. There was some Home Alone type shit up in there, Final Destination shit up in there, which would have played awesome in this film.
And I agree. So this film, 85 minutes. It is that sweet spot runtime.
Safe neighbor. Better watch.
Better watch out.
Oh.
But it doesn't feel brief.
I was gonna say
it feels long.
That's why I'm surprised.
And I think a lot of that has to do with its budget. I think it has 3 actors trapped in one location in one set for its entire runtime. It doesn't have the opportunity to go full Final Destination because there's only 3 characters. And that requires the conversation and the character work to be engrossing. And after the turn, there's no heft to what these characters are going through. There's no weight. There's no emotion. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that these kids can't carry the movie.
And also, I don't think that it was directed in that way. It had a hard time finding its tone. Like, I thought that it could get it should have gotten darker quicker, and the character that changes should have not changed so quickly.
That's my biggest issue. I felt like I just didn't buy that person was that way all along, and then now it's exhibited all of a sudden. Because if they had
it's
dropped,
not as scary. It's not as scary if like now it's psycho time. The psycho switch has been hit. It's more fun to watch someone go mad than it is to watch someone switch on a dime.
If there was either a lead up to that or just hints earlier on that you can look at and go, oh, okay, I can kind of see why this character would be revealed to actually be this way.
Well,
now it makes
I
sense.
just don't understand why the final girl, how she could not escape this guy because he's such a chump.
Yeah.
Because of script necessity, they remain in the building together, but she should have been out that door a long time ago. Safe neighborhood. There's a house next door, and the script does find ways to confine her, but they didn't feel genuine to me.
Okay.
Right, and also I think I loved the parents in the beginning of the film.
Yeah, Virginia Madsen and Patrick Warburton.
Right.
Great.
But the thing is, they were very funny and very over the top. So then you're setting up the tone of the film like this. It's going to be like a, Evil Dead 2 kind of horror movie, where I think it would have been a little bit more scary if they didn't do that.
I agree, but at the same time though, you just love Patrick Warburton in that way. But I agree, Lisa. Maybe it was something that I considered in hindsight, but the tone of it, not finding a sweet spot as they did with the runtime, I think is a handicap of the film.
I did enjoy the performances of the kids. Mm-hmm. Levi Miller plays the kind of main character, mm-hmm. and I think that with time he can become a really interesting actor. He was in Pan. Yep. I think he's just one of those kids that just has like one of those faces. Like he has it's like an extremely pretty kid. I
really dug him in Pan. I don't know if you all listeners remember my review one week in Dork about that movie, but I really dug him and I dug the film actually.
He's a cherubic little kid, and they play on that a little bit, and I think that he does a good job. I do think that it's direction and scripting. I think that there would be a way to make his character more interesting beyond his performance. Also, I really enjoy Ed Oxenbould as Garrett, who plays like the nerdy best friend who's like doing whippets in the fridge and smoking pot.
Both he and the girl, the babysitter, are
right.
brother and sister in M. Night Shyamalan's most recent The Visit.
Mm-hmm.
He does not.
DeGange?
Yeah.
Yep.
But unlike The Visit, he doesn't bust any rhymes.
No. All right. So this was on Thursday.
So that was our opening night. I thought, even though like the movie wasn't like my favorite movie in the world, I thought it was a fun movie to start on.
Yeah. Did the audience respond well to it?
They loved it.
They did.
All right.
I mean, there was a lot of talk afterwards in the lobby. I think the film certainly ends on a great moment,
right,
and a great shot, and it sends you out of the theater cheering.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways saves the film.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a great crowd film. You can hear people's audible reactions and celebrations and whatever. Mm-hmm. Then, unlike last weekend, we had a little break on Friday because it didn't start until 5. So we decided to take advantage of some of our last weekend sponsors. Yeah. We hit up Hopscotch Coffee, which is a really great little spot in Winchester where they have both they I don't know, make their own, they stew the beans. What do? They make their own coffee and
they stew those beans.
Stew the beans. And they also sell records, and they have a really cute, like, the sitting area downstairs was so fucking cool that I felt kind of out of place and weird. I'm like, I'm way too old and darky to be here.
A $6 million man original pinball machine.
Yeah, Whoa. They do. We didn't bring our quarters, or we would have hit it up.
Awesome.
And then also we met up with Darren at Four Color Fantasies. They were having a sale that day.
Yes.
They sell. They're a comic book store. We can't go anywhere without hitting up the comic book store.
That's a fact. I bought Dr. Voodoo.
I bought comic book. Nice. I bought Transformer comic book.
Yay!
Yay!
It's a cool little building, little blue building.
And then we watched movies.
Yes. So then we met back up at the theater
Yep.
at 5 p.m. for Eyes Without a Face.
Yep.
A French kind of thriller.
Man,
film.
classic.
Hold on. You and Brian are just shitting on the Hitman's Bodyguard. No love for the shit.
That's true. We did see Hitman's Bodyguard.
Oh, I totally blanked on it. Do you know why? Because it's utterly forgettable.
Pretty much. That's the same thing I said. It's forgettable.
Okay, so Eyes Without a Face.
Yeah. Honestly, I know that I saw Hitman's Bodyguard. I cannot remember anything about it.
He ruined motherfucker for you, Lisa.
Oh, yeah, that is a great quote. Okay, so Eyes Without a Face.
Yep.
I like Salma Hayek.
And this would be the first official film to continue
Right.
Psychorama.
That's right. So the story of Eyes Without a Face, or Les yeux sans visage.
Yes.
I took French in high school. Can you tell? It's about this kind of mad scientist guy who has a daughter with who was in an accident, and it affected her beauty.
Affected. That's an understatement. It ripped her face off.
Ripped her fucking face off. And so he developed this procedure in which he can regenerate skin and regenerate and transplant skin from one person to another, but the process is not perfected. The process is very tenuous, and so we find out that what he's been doing is sending his secretary out to find beautiful women so he can scrape their face off and sew them to their daughter, and it's taken a couple tries.
Well, the film opens up, and it has a Hitchcockian opening where the secretary is disposing of one of their victims, one of their faceless ladies. And the film opens with this score by Maurice Jarre. It's one of his first scores. He'd go on to do... oh God, what's like a big Maurice Jarre score? Lawrence of Arabia. Oh God, I'm blanking all of a sudden. But like, Maurice Jarre would go on and make really grand, epic film scores for cinema. And the opening of Eyes Without a Face is this very cutesy.
Yeah, there's like this 3-4 time, almost calliope sounding piece that turns out to be the secretary's theme, which is very like jaunty and
it's this uplifting theme that introduces the secretary disposing a body, and we have to catch up to what is with this woman with the pearl necklace doing, dumping corpses in the rivers. And the film just becomes so bent and upsetting in its methodology, because you understand, you certainly sympathize with the daughter who has no face. And they fake her death so they can continue to experiment with plastic surgery.
Because she's been declared missing. So it's like this open mystery. And so one of the bodies that they had disposed of washed up, and then so the father, the surgeon, took that opportunity to say, "That's my daughter." Meanwhile, there's another guy going like, "Could it have been my daughter?" And he's like, "Don't even bother looking. I looked, and it's my daughter. So you can just hope that your daughter's still out there."
Yeah. So the lead actress plays the daughter.
Adila Vali.
So talk about her. She's.
Oh wait, or is she? No, yeah, I'm right.
Because I felt like she gave a very compelling physical performance.
Absolutely, there's so many beautiful images of her. She's a very petite, statuesque woman.
Yes.
She's very bird-like.
Yes.
And just absolutely stunning. And the scenes of her she wears this conforming mask to her face, And when she wears this mask, and since she's homebound, she's often wearing these really beautiful day dresses. And she just kind of floats around with her face just silently observing. She also, this mask has these enormous eye holes, and she has these huge, beautiful, expressive eyes.
Yeah.
So her performance is almost puppet-like.
Yes.
The way that she floats around and observes. And her character has a turn, because she does not initially realize that what her father is doing.
She is consumed with grief for her own deformity.
Her
obviously.
own deformity. She's a very beautiful actress, and
it's actually Edith Scobe who's playing Christiane.
Oh.
And she's from Holy Motors and
What?
Brotherhood of the Wolf. She's the madam in Brotherhood of the Wolf.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit.
Oh, dude.
And she has, she's always floating through this film. Like, I'm not even sure if they ever shoot her feet. She just seems to be gliding through the corridors and down the staircases and through the woods.
Her movements are always graceful.
Absolutely. And, at one point she's going down to the basement and she finds the dogs that her dad has been experimenting on, and you definitely get the impression that she understands that her father is tooling around with these puppies.
Yeah, she goes down and she embraces them and loves them.
And it's a really, and at that point the audience isn't fully aware of what's happened to these puppies either.
Yeah.
So it's in retrospect, it's even sadder.
I want to talk
There,
about.
you can tell that they're all locked up.
Something's amiss
with them.
Yeah.
But her story, as she goes from not knowing what her father's doing to understanding it fully to where she ends up at the end of the film, is told almost entirely without words. You just see her observing and taking it in and being in mourning. There is one moment when they do a successful
surgery,
seemingly successful, and you see her beautiful, perfect face.
Yeah.
And she just seems so haunted by the face of the person that she's wearing. It's just a really beautiful performance.
I found that mask to be extremely evocative and striking and effective. In retrospect, thinking back on it, when we initially saw it, we here in the podcast, we made comparisons to David Ames's mask in Vanilla Sky. But I also, thinking back on it, couldn't help but think about, and I'm not being facetious, but Michael Myers' mask, in that instead of having for a horror, not saying that this is supposed to be a horror film, but horror movies, they tend to create a distinctive and deliberate scary visage to kind of portray the horror. But I really think going with that look similar to Michael Myers, there's no really grotesque features of that Michael Myers. It's just the plain face.
It's a neutral face, not unlike a porcelain doll. You know, where you as the viewer impose the emotion onto that face. You project on that face.
But the difference between this mask and the Vanilla Sky mask and even the Michael Myers mask is you get all of her eyes. Like, her eyes are bulging out of the mask.
She's still emotive behind that mask. And I think that also because the mask, with her complexion not being too far off from the mask, that there are some times where, for me, it would blend. Like, it would just become her face. And in the way that, coupled with the way she moved, and the mask has a blank look, a blank stare, but because of her body language, because of what you said, Lisa, what she's observing around her, obviously having some type of emotional effect on her, that there is emotion behind that mask. So to know that there's an emotion, and also what you said, Lisa, where we project onto it, that would juxtaposed with the blankness on the mask, for me, there's a conscious and a subconscious unease with that, and I really appreciated that.
Another thing I found interesting in this film was the portrayal of women and men. Because the women in this movie, so we have Christiane, who is the girl with the mask, and we're watching her solve things and come up with solutions. And then there's also the secretary,
the hunter,
who is going out there and acquiring these women through her cunning. And then there are the men characters, which is Dr. Genesee, and then there's an inspector character with his assistant, Inspector Perot, and
total idiots.
And all of the men are just so horrible at their job.
Incompetent.
Like, we have a brief time where the doctor is being investigated, and so we get to see him at his place of work where he's a doctor, and all of his patients are like doing horribly. They're all hemorrhaging and things are going, and he's a horrible doctor. And the inspectors are just like blundering. It's really funny, the fact that it's the women, even though they're not in the place of power, it's the women who have the cunning, and it's the men who are just doping around.
Well, the cops plan, so they blackmail this young girl,
a shoplifter,
who was caught shoplifting.
She was not particularly cunning.
She's more cunning than the people who blackmailed her, to go to the hospital and pretend to be suffering from migraines so that she'll catch the eye of the doctor, because maybe they suspect he's up to no good. And, she falls prey to him. But when she disappears from his hospital and the cops come back, they're not doing a sting operation. They're not outside that hospital waiting for that young girl to fall into the claws of the evil doctor. They're back home. And when that girl goes missing, they're just like, oh, I guess she went home. I guess she went home.
The nurse said that she was walking to the bus, so I guess she made it to the bus.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about it. Yeah. Oh, well, doctor's fine.
It reminds me of that John Mulaney joke where he's talking about old-time detectives in movies, and where they go like, wow, this is a huge pool of blood. Ew, gross. Clean that up. Now let's go back to my theory. Let's draw a chalk line around the bodies so that we'll know where the body was.
Pretty much.
Just blundering. But I found it to be a really stunning film. And I found the ending of it like creepy and beautiful. It's everything you'd want out of a black and white French horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So following that, it was Tragedy Girls.
Yay!
Yeah, so Tragedy Girls, it was being compared to Clueless. It was being compared, but it's like Clueless with a bent serial killer twist, I guess.
So, I mean, if you just read the IMDb plot, Tragedy Girls, a twist on the slasher genre following two death-obsessed teenage girls who use their online show about real-life tragedies to send their small Midwestern town into a frenzy and cement their legacy as modern horror legends. Yeah. So just hearing that, I'm out. I'd want nothing to do with this movie. It sounds super lame and dumb. Yeah. No, thank you. And like the horror version of Clueless. Oh God, no.
I like Clueless.
But as the film kicks off, you're won over almost immediately from the cast, and in particular the Tragedy Girls. Yeah. Brianna Hildebrand, who's what's her name?
Negasonic Teenage Warhead
from Deadpool.
Yep.
And Alexandra Shipp, who's
Storm
from X-Men Apocalypse, Darren's favorite X-Men movie.
Yikes.
They are great.
Yeah.
They are great.
Yeah.
Totally watchable. And the film sort of gets rid of its social media send-up pretty quickly. It starts off, they're connected to Twitter, they're Snapchatting, they
have a YouTube channel.
They got their YouTube channel. They're hunting for likes. But the film is less interested in mocking modern society.
It doesn't lean on that concept to sustain the film.
Right. And you stay on board as an audience member because you are genuinely connected to these two sociopaths, as it turns out.
Yeah, which was surprising to me in that reveal, like within the first act of the film.
I mean, the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. So much so that I initially was apprehensive or not sure if I was going to be able to connect with these two characters because, like, right off the bat, they're doing some heinous shit.
They're straight up bad people, yeah.
Yeah, but
they're budding serial killers.
As a testament to the screenplay and the performers, the actors, and to these two girls, you just mentioned, Brad, you are somehow won over. This film, that script, their acting weaves its magic spell on you, and then you are along for the ride. You buy into it, which has to happen if you're going to follow this movie and enjoy it, because you got to buy into those two characters, their friendship, which is the crux of that movie.
It's based on a clever premise, which, like, cleverness can be a trap, because if something's clever, it can be a good initial idea, but you have to sustain and support that idea. And I think that they do a really good job with upping the ante with each incident.
And so, like, if you come for the gore, it delivers on some kills.
I gotta say, and if you've listened to the podcast anytime recently within the last year or so, we've been talking about how, we have been in modern film, we've been getting some really good horror films. We've been getting some very conscious horror films. Obviously, with this year's Get Out, we've been getting some really effective mood-sustaining horror films, like with Babadook and The Witch. There's this resurgence of sorts. But this one harkens back and pays homage to a lot of the slasher films of the 70s and 80s, and it does so in a way that it's right up there with some of the more successful recent horror films.
I think it does owe a lot to Scream.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's quite as good as Scream.
Right.
But it feels like a natural successor to certainly Wes Craven's first film. And I think, like Scream, supporting cast also really strong.
Oh, man, yeah.
I love, this is the first role where I'm just like, okay, that role fits Kevin Durant's weird ass face.
Yeah.
It's like,
I love Kevin Durant.
I love Kevin Durant too, but he has a weird set of teeth.
Yeah, that set of teeth.
Call for a serial killer.
Lisa, that set of teeth fit I Am Number 4. It fit Wolverine Origins. Okay,
Smoking Aces.
It fits. Oh yeah, it
Trevor
fits
brother.
Smoking Aces. You're damn right. Kevin Durant has been well cast in lots of things.
But I get what Lisa's saying. He does have a weird, creepy visage, and his mouth game is off-putting.
Yeah, it's like his teeth are like perfect, and you can't tell if they're too small for his mouth or too big for his mouth. Like, what is going on? But his
Don't you
character is
talk
great.
about Kimi that way.
He's great.
I think that Josh Hutcherson.
Oh man,
I thought his
Really
character
fun.
was really fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's such an obvious joke. He's like the super sexy guy, Peter, who has the raddest Instagram account on the block.
The bad boy
But
with
they
the
don't
motorcycle.
play it too hard. Like,
I mean, it's
he
played
has like
pretty
one-
hard.
But it's like one scene.
Right,
He's got
right.
one or two scenes where you're like, yeah, I get the joke, and yeah.
Craig Robinson pops up as Big Al.
He's great. He's
So
got a
great.
great scene.
And
His
I
death
mean,
scene's amazing.
Let's talk.
Spoiler alert.
Well, yeah, I kind of got away from it, but the death scenes in this film are some of the greatest. This is what I was going to go back to, but are some of the greatest I've seen in a horror film in recent memory. Like, they're really, really good and
They're
inventive.
fun.
Yes.
They're fun, and they have a twist.
well, as Lisa mentioned, there is a Final Destination Rube Goldberg element to the deaths, which is cool and hilarious at times.
And the thing is, like, nothing ever quite goes as planned, but the girls always seem to manage to work it to their advantage, which is really nice. It's nice to see young people, millennials, with a hobby and vision.
Yeah.
So,
And I appreciate that after you get like you said, Lisa, you get some great scenes and great kills in succession that just keep getting better. But the movie doesn't totally rely on those and then fall apart because of those, because it gets back to, again, the two main characters and the rift that comes between them that leads to some interesting places.
And I think that it goes to some unpredictable places, because one of the girls comes from a less privileged background and she's at home with like a single dad, and then the other girl comes from a more privileged house and she has two parents that really love and support her. And so serial killer wise, you'd think one girl would react one way and one girl would react the other way, but it's not the way that you expect, and it's refreshing.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about Jack Quaid, who we just saw also this weekend in Logan Lucky, as Daniel Craig's brother, his hillbilly brother. But in Tragedy Girls, he's even better because he's the chump wannabe boyfriend who, is desperate to get with Brianna. And at first you're just like, oh man, get rid of this guy. Yeah. But then suddenly you're rooting for him and you're rooting against him all at the same exact time. It's a very Game of Thrones situation, Brian, just to wake you up a little bit to Tragedy Girls.
I think Brian would dig Tragedy Girls. He's not a horror guy, but I think you would have a good time with that film. You should definitely check it out.
Okay,
Brian.
But I just love the casting. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think I'm checking the Psycho Cinema page on Facebook right now, but I think that Tragedy Girls was definitely one of the hits.
Oh yeah,
of
absolutely.
The festival.
So Lisa, you said that the movie is smart or witty, and you said that there can be
cleverness can be a crutch.
But I'm of the opinion that this movie was able to sustain it, and I agree. I think that it actually stuck the landing. Like, I love the ending of it. Did you particularly enjoy the ending?
I did. The ending is both the ending that you want and unpredictable.
Yeah.
So it was really satisfying. It was a satisfying watch.
Yep. So, Brett, when I was watching Logan Lucky, I was like, I know that dude. I've seen him somewhere before. Where have I seen that guy?
I was doing the exact same thing until I just pulled up the IMDb page.
That guy. So, yeah, Tragedy Girls, that was a hit at the festival. So, what do we have after that on Friday?
After that was the Blaxploitation classic, Petey Wheatstraw.
Yeah, gee.
Oh,
so man. The character of Petey Wheatstraw, he's played by Rudy Ray Moore.
The Human Tornado.
Who we enjoyed not too long ago in Dolomite as one of our Secret Society of Filmmasons, right?
Yeah.
But in this film, Rudy Ray Moore plays Petey Wheatstraw, who's a character based on an African-American folktale. About this guy he's supposed to be so clever that he married the devil's daughter, and he's the devil's son-in-law. And so in this particular story, we follow Petey in making this deal with the devil, and also trying to get out of it, because the devil's daughter is plain. She's very plain.
I think she's straight up ugly.
She's an uggo. She looks, spoiler alert, when we do see her face, she looks scarred.
She looks like Eyes Without a Face.
I think she spent a little too much time way too close to those flames, those satanic flames.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When Faye was introducing the film, she said all of Psycho Cinema had been building up to this moment where she was going to unleash Petey Wheatstraw upon the crowd.
Yeah.
And two, that if you made it past the opening scene, you were good.
Yeah.
And that opening scene is the birth of Petey Wheatstraw.
And it's fucking nuts.
It is nuts. And I think, on top of nuts, not well executed.
I mean, so like...
It's bizarre. It's played super jokey and awkward.
Darren had said this before Petey Wheatstraw began, when we were, I don't know, those during those 10-minute breaks between movies.
Yeah.
Where, if you're like, oh yeah, I know what I'm getting into. I've seen Dolomite. I know what Rudy Ray Moore is about. No, you don't know what you're about to get into.
Yeah.
Because Petey Wheatstraw is not Dolomite. Mm-mm. It is not the Human Tornado. It is not Disco Godfather. Mm-mm. Yes, it is Rudy Ray Moore, but this is fucking crazy.
Wholly different. Yeah.
And so that birthing sequence is like when you meet Petey's mom, she's as big as a house. Literally. Like she has filled up that entire room because he is such a large baby inside her.
Yeah.
And she's screaming, and
there's like a hurricane happening.
There's like attending people.
And then this like 10-year-old child is born from her womb and just steps right out wearing a diaper and punching the doctor.
I hate to have to mention it, but the 10-year-old child was not the only thing that came out of her womb.
No, she birthed the watermelon first.
She didn't. Her water didn't break. Her watermelon broke.
Yeah.
Which
so there's that.
It's just, I mean, in poor taste.
there is a lot of watermelon comedy.
It's a recurring joke in this film.
Which, I mean, as someone who's seen all of Rudy Ray Moore's films, who has experienced and lived black exploitation cinema, even having an understanding of the context in which these films were made and the audiences they were made for, I still found a lot, that scene in particular, but there in all of the other scenes too, but I still found it offensive. And I don't know that it was just because of that on its own merits, or if it's because of where I am, what headspace I'm in because of recent incidents in our society, the whole thing that happened with the protests and the tragedy there, but just seeing that today and being reminded of our image and representation of people of color on screen, and we've come far. We have Black Panther's coming out soon. I just watched my last week in Dork was talking about Girls Trip and how that was a good movie and how there were people of color represented with dignity in that film, even though some of them let their hair down. But I at the same time, like I look at something like Petey Wheatstraw, and I don't know if it was necessarily just the audience that I was watching it with or whatever, but just for me, like and I said this during our Q&A, my concern is there's a really fine line when that has to be walked when you show something like this, because of how it can be perceived and taken. Like people can look at it and either be dismissive of it and have an understanding of the context, or it can also, again, perpetuate the stereotypes of, blacks and watermelon if they're not conscious of, certain things. And so that, it's conflicting even for a person of color, because again, it's a Rudy Ray Moore film. It's a movie starring black, actors and people. And so you kind of go, okay, I guess, are they okay with it? So should I be okay with it?
So, I mean, it is a kind of superhero cinema, right? Like Rudy Ray Moore is beyond your average hero.
Right.
He is an icon of the community. He's, by his own admission, the funniest guy on the planet.
Right.
It's about, the main plot of the film is he's coming to town and his show is going to sell out, is going to be such a big deal that the other club that's about to open, that's run by Leroy and Skillet, they can't have their opening night if Petey Wheatstraw is in town, because Petey Wheatstraw is going to steal all their limelight.
Right, so, and they owe a lot of money to Mr. White, the white guy in the film, who has threatened violence if they can't pay him back on that opening night.
Right.
So you have like one comedian at war with a set of comedians, and then there's this weird ass story about Satan visiting Petey Wheatstraw after he's been murdered on the footsteps of a church, with Tommy guns. He's shot to death by Scarface Willie, who's a hired gun for Leroy and Skillet. And it is really ugly assassination. It doesn't feel like it belongs in the tone of this movie. Also, right before this assassination, you have a child accidentally shot and murdered by Scarface Willie. And, the thing about, you think about all of Rudy Ray Moore's movies is there's a real uncomfortable whirlwind of tone. It's, heightened action, it's heightened comedy, it's absurdist, and then it goes to watching a kid get murdered. And how do you justify all these experiences? Now, to get back to what Darren's saying is we're in a theater that's all white in Winchester, Virginia, reacting to this absurdist movie. Now, and for me, sitting next to you, and I'm reacting to it, I'm laughing at it, I'm having a quote unquote great time watching P.D. Wheatstraw because it's just so insane. But you have to have the conversation of, well, am I laughing at it? Am I laughing with it? As you were saying, is this film really even for me, Brad Gullickson?
Right.
And it was like really bizarre and uncomfortable to experience.
You have to watch it with the understanding that I am incapable of contextualizing this.
You can't really watch it like you would watch, I don't know, Death Race 2000, which is going to play in a week. The Roger Corman exploitation film. Because you have to watch it in the context of its time. And its audience.
And I think that people saying, well, that exploitative stuff, the watermelon and things like that, it's okay because it's Rudy Ray Moore, it's in a film with black actors and things like that. I mean, I still think that with that being the case, those the black filmmakers, no matter their intentions, they still do also have a responsibility of what they put up there and how they portray. And again, this is a wholly different time, so the mindset is totally different. And it could be that, well, we're just glad to get our people on the screen starring in a movie, and we can do what we want and things like that. But I don't.
And are they lampooning, minstrel comedy, or are they, or are they falling into minstrel comedy?
Right. And in my mind, there's a very good and interesting argument to be made that they could be the latter, because you look at something like, the hip hop music, not just now, but of the 80s, 90s, and the early aughts and things like that, and where African Americans have a certain image. And so granted, you can look at it and say, well, it's good that Jay-Z can be the face of black culture and black music and rap about, being successful and having money and doing this stuff because, young black kids and people can see that and aspire to greatness. But at the same time, if he's being derogatory towards women and things like that, then that's it does nothing for the other side of that image he's trying to portray. Like, he has a responsibility, and I think it's the same way with because if not, then he's going to perpetuate a stereotype that all black people do when they get money is buy rims and go to the strip club and call women hoes and bitches and stuff like that. So I think that that same type of principle applies even back then to those films. And again, it was a different era. We didn't have Oscar winner Denzel and Halle Berry. We didn't have a bunch of positive images. I mean, we only had Sidney Poitier was one of the only distinctive black voices and faces that we had in cinema back in the day. So we didn't have a normal,
or at least crossover-wise.
So we didn't have a normalcy of this is what a dignified black image on screen could be. So it was just out the gate. We got an opportunity to make a movie, but you also got to think they're taking a history of their perception, how they're perceived, and how they see themselves in with them in this new endeavor of making films for their people. And so I think there's something, I don't know, like I think there's a very interesting thing happens when, you know, you try to work through that through your art.
Right. I do wonder, though, when making P.D. Wheatstraw, if they ever intended white audiences to see that film, because the idea of blaxploitation and the blaxploitation movies of the 70s is they were exploiting a market that wasn't being sold to. So they thought, okay, if we make a movie geared to black audiences, then we'll get those dollars. But then that also creates this safe space where they go, well, white people aren't going to see this movie, so we get to express ourselves the way we want to. We make jokes the way we make the kinds of jokes that will speak to us. And there's not that like social pressure.
I think that is very much the case. But again, like a lot of the younger rappers, especially like back in the day, like when they make their music, Ice Cube and NWA, like when they make their music saying what they want to say and expressing themselves, they're not thinking, all right, well, we're going to make this so we can go pop and we can have a white audience or whatever. They're making that music. NWA was making that music for the people in Compton, for the people in South Central. Right. So we can talk about like killing people and selling drugs and pimping out hoes and stuff like that. But another audience is going to hear that, and it's possible that they're going to perceive that and see, well, is that how you all act? Is that how they all think? So I think that's a danger in that.
That's true, but I think that white people, like, we have this habit of going like, well, all art is for us. We go to the mainstream movies, and those movies are for us. Right. And so then, and so everything should speak to me, and I should understand everything because I am a white person. But then we encounter something like P.D. Wheatstraw, and we go, well, you know, how do we contextualize this? Does this make it okay? And I think that we have a social responsibility to listen to NWA and go, I need to contextualize this. Right. You know?
So you can't watch P.D. Wheatstraw the way you would watch any other shitty 70s action film.
Exactly.
You have to bring context to it.
Yeah.
And the awkwardness of that theatrical experience comes from the people who are not bringing context or ignoring context to what they are seeing.
Right. But, like, do you go, like, do we not show P.D. Wheatstraw in Winchester? Or do you go, okay.
Well, if you don't show P.D. Wheatstraw, a conversation about P.D. Wheatstraw, whether it be uncomfortable, cannot happen. So I think you do have to have that. And I appreciate Faye for, you know, plugging that, especially in that particular... for that particular demographic in that particular location. Like we don't even show that in Loudoun, closer to, you know, DC and in urban areas. So.
That's what I also find extraordinary about things like Psychocinema and the films we've hosted and the films that Gabe has hosted and Aaron in his time has hosted and now Brian Loy is like, you get to do these intros. I think that Faye did a really wonderful intro for P.D. Wheatstraw. And then I think also, along with the horror cast, you guys did a panel where you talked about all of the films, but you also did talk about P.D. Wheatstraw and your experience talking about P.D. Wheatstraw. And I think that creates a safe space where we can talk about art and we can talk about our personal experience. And I think that goes a long way in contextualizing art.
Absolutely.
Even if not everybody comes away with exactly the worldview that you want them to come away with, at least they can't say that they didn't experience it.
Right.
You know, so I think that's interesting. And I also think that it's wonderful that Black Panther is coming out and the idea, okay, well, this is a movie for everybody. Yeah. You know, it's starring a beautiful black cast. It's got a black director and it's for everybody. Not that I think that, you know, like art shouldn't be made for specific audiences, like that you should make the art that's in your heart, but the fact that we're aiming as a society for a place where art can be made for everybody is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. All right, and then after P.D. Wheatstraw we had
It Stains the Sands with No, it Stains the Sands Red.
Yeah.
Which I did not, Brad and I did not watch.
Mm-hmm.
Brad had to work the next day, and plus it looked vomity, and I was right. So you're going to have to talk about this one.
All right. This was a film about, there is a zombie. We open on the beginnings of the zombie apocalypse. So it's not post-apocalyptic. We're actually seeing the genesis of a zombie apocalypse. It's never really outwardly stated that it's a zombie apocalypse. We just, based on context and our bringing our own history of the subgenre in, we can surmise that. And then especially when we see the zombies. So it's about a young lady she's fleeing Las Vegas. She's fleeing the city with her boyfriend and through the desert. They're going to meet up, rendezvous with some friends at an airfield, get on a plane, and get the hell out of Dodge to safety. They make a stop. There's a car trouble, and a zombie appears. And through certain events that happen in this particular scene, this woman flees across the desert. She's still trying to make her way to the airfield, and with this one particular zombie in tow. And that's really the film. The woman is trying to get to safety while being pursued by a singular zombie. And while that's the synopsis of it, what that zombie does is forward that character's progression and evolution from who she is at the opening of that film to how we see her as a person at the end of the film. And in between, we have flashbacks and brief glimpses as to her life prior to this apocalypse and who she is as a person. So when we meet her, she's in the car with her boyfriend, sniffing cocaine. They're just drinking. They got their survival kit, vodka and bottles of water, and they're going to flee this. They're going to go to Mexico, and they're going to live the good life, and they'll be okay and just lay low and outlive this zombie apocalypse. And we come to find out she's leaving behind a kid with her sister, I think, or her friend. And she was an exotic dancer, and she just lived a very irresponsible life, so much so that she knew she couldn't take care of her son because she couldn't even take care of herself. So through this circumstance of having to make this trek across the desert and being followed by the zombie, she ultimately ends up with a lot of time to think and reevaluating her life and her particular circumstances, how she ended up here, and things happen. And this zombie ends up being what causes her to push forward, not just in the literal sense of getting to the airfield, but with her life and as a person, and it ends up changing her. And so I
into a zombie. Spoiler alert. Just joking.
I talked about this in the Q&A, and what I said was that this the subgenre of the zombie film, like right now we've just been saturated with zombie stuff, with The Walking Dead being the phenomenon that it is, and Romero's work still being emulated and inspiring to this day. We've just had no shortage of zombie films, but when you do tell a zombie story, or a story with that backdrop or that element, it's important to use that to tell a different type of story, or in a different way, or progress a different type of character. So most recently we had The Girl with All the Gifts, which uses that the zombie element to great effect, I think, from a character standpoint. And this
also is a science fiction film on top of that, which I think is an interesting
amazing
twist.
Yeah. And I think this one uses that to great effect as far as this character goes, because it's really just this, we follow this one singular character. I mean, I think she's in 99% of the film. She's almost in every scene in the film. And while the script isn't perfect, the character doesn't necessarily make all the best decisions, or may become irritating at some times, and the pacing might be off, I still think from a character standpoint, I found it extremely effective. Me personally, bringing my own personal baggage into the film with a mother who left her son for her own personal reasons, who ends up deciding, you know what, I need to go back. That child needs me. I need that child. And then let me go back and get that kid. And that was really, I really responded to that. Like, I thought that was pretty badass.
So, I did get a chance to watch this on Sunday when we came back to the apartment.
It's on
demand
Okay.
now. And I really liked a lot about the movie. In particular, what you're talking about.
Right.
How Smalls, the zombie that follows behind her for the majority of this movie, elicits change in her being.
Right.
You know, again, this is a pretty short movie. It's 92 minutes. And I feel like it reaches a climax, and we only needed like 10 minutes for her to make that decision. Okay, so I'm going to spoil the last not the last moments of the movie, but the last turn of the movie, narrative turn. You know, she does go for that child. And the climax of this movie is her finding the kid. I felt like all we needed for the climax to work is her to make that choice to go back for the kid.
Yeah.
I don't think I necessarily needed to see it happen.
Yeah.
And I felt like it dragged in the last 15 minutes of the movie. Because I felt like I had the complete character arc already, and I'm still watching the movie. I was waiting for the credits to hit.
And I think that last 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, that drag, I think all of that happened, and we were shown that for that last shot.
Right.
Which
it's a great shot.
Which for me makes, because I feel the same way, because I was like, man, are they going to show her go all the way back? Like, and then when we show her, I'm like, okay, what, like...
Well, it's just that you've been in the desert with her for the entire movie.
Yeah.
And then she makes so much progress physically, like distance, in 10 minutes.
Oh, man, Brad.
Like, it's just like...
That's the whole Fury Road friggin' complaint.
No, I don't necessarily agree with that in Fury Road. It's longer than 10 minutes.
And it's Fury Road. I love it.
And it's Fury Road. But it's just like... It just jumps too quickly, just so you can have that shot. Yeah. And I feel like that shot, as cool as it is, isn't really the emotional punch of the movie, isn't the climax of the film.
Yeah.
It's just the decision.
Yeah.
And I don't think the budget of the film could hold what they were trying to do in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So with the zombie being called Smalls, did they get to use the immortal line, "You're killing me, Smalls"?
No.
Wasted opportunity. Totally
No.
dropped the ball.
We don't need that.
No. But again, the audience seemed to really enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I think that was another successful screening for Psychorama.
Yes.
Was that the last one of the night?
That was the last one of the night. So we dragged ourselves back to our hotel rooms.
Yep.
Brad then went to work the next morning. He got up at 4 a.m.
Damn.
I commuted from Winchester to Arlington.
Yeah. And then Darren and I started our morning with Mad Monster Party.
Lisa's favorite of the festival.
So this is, what is that company called? That does
Rankin Bass.
The Rankin Bass stop motion animation holiday.
I'm the
Halloween
heat miser.
special. The only Rankin Bass film I enjoy even marginally is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And Darren has spoiled it already. I was not a huge fan of Mad Monster Party. I thought it was so boring.
I was surprised. I thought, like, when it started, I was like, oh, like music and cool looking, like cute little stop motion puppet figures. Or Lisa's gonna love this. She's probably loving it.
It's also 1967 peak Lisa Love era.
Absolutely. And they bring, it's like a coming together of all of the Universal monsters. There's Boris Karloff is the voice of the Dr. Frankenstein. There is an Invisible Man, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
There's a Phyllis Diller.
There's a Phyllis Diller as the monster's mate. It's a musical. It's all arrows are pointing to Lisa.
They even had the skeleton band and had the
the
bob
monkey's
haircut,
hair.
the monkey's hair. Yeah, I was like, oh shit, Lisa's loving this.
Oh God, it was so awful.
What I love is when you look up the credits on IMDb, there are 5 voice credits. Boris Karloff, as we mentioned, Phyllis Diller, Ethel Enos is the song
singer.
Yeah, the song title singer. Gail Garnett is Francesca, and then Alan Swift is
Everybody else.
Everybody else.
Damn.
Like 7, 8 characters.
So the plot, just briefly, Dr. Frankenstein has found the formula. So he created the formula that creates life from nothing with his, which he used to create Frankenstein and Frankenstein's mate, and it turns out Francesca. Spoiler alert, I guess. But at the beginning of this film, he has found the formula for destruction. And so what do you do when you've made a breakthrough of science, of mad science? You throw yourself a party.
Throw a party.
So he invites all of his spoopy friends and his nephew, who is named what? I forget his nephew's name. Felix. And he invites his nephew Felix, who is a pharmacist with allergies.
His voice irritated me. That's why I
yeah.
couldn't connect with Felix.
It is awful. But So they all go onto the island, and hijinks ensue as the monsters find out that Felix is Frankenstein's true heir, and he's going to get the formula for destruction and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't find it as charming as I had hoped it would be.
It's extremely slow. Phyllis Diller, after every line, I love her, but after every line she cackles.
Yes.
Like this horrible cackle.
Yeah.
Weirdly, what I enjoyed were the little archaic things about the 60s that are just totally off color for a children's cartoon. So, for example, at one point, Francesca is the first to find out about Felix. So she's trying to get Dracula on her side so they together can outsmart Dr. Frankenstein so that Francesca can be the true heir. And Frankenstein and his mate overhear this, and so Francesca and Phyllis Diller get into fisticuffs in which they rip each other's clothes off, and now these two animated ladies, Francesca, who is quite buxom, are fighting in their underwear.
Panties.
Oh yeah,
which is hilarious. And then later in the film,
that's the word.
Felix is now on the run, and he's decided he's not going to accept the.
Oh wait, what was the dude's name? Oh, you're so beautiful.
Oh yeah,
that perv.
Yeah,
Yetch.
What's the name of that actor that he's spoofing? He was in Casablanca. He was in that
Claude Rains.
Yeah, he sounds like
Igor?
that.
Oh no, Peter Lorre.
Peter Lorre. So he's like a Peter Lorre character. Everybody.
I needed the visual cue for your Peter Lorre, Lisa.
It was a micro impression, but it was fucking spot on.
He got the reference.
Yeah. So there's that character. But then there's at one point Felix is on the run. He's decided he's not going to accept the inheritance, and Francesca is kind of after him for some reason. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And so there's at one point where she starts getting scared and she starts getting hysterical. And so the answer to when a woman gets hysterical is, of course, to slap her across the face. So Felix smacks her across the face, and then she immediately falls in love with him. And she starts, they start kissing, and she's now they're romantically entwined, which I find just so hilarious. But that was like a staple. That was like a staple in like Looney Tunes cartoons and stuff. When a woman gets hysterical, you slap her. And I actually told Darren this story, but there was a time.
You're going to tell him how we got together? Oh, yeah.
No, there was a time when I was a kid. I must have been in like kindergarten or first grade. Because it was with a particular friend who I didn't hang out with after a certain point, after like third grade. So I was like a little kid. And there was a time when I saw my friend and I interpreted her as getting hysterical. Maybe we were having a fight. I can't remember the context. But I did try and slap a person across the face to stop them from being hysterical. Do you know what? It doesn't work. It makes them very pissed at you.
Mm-hmm.
But I just love that that was like such a trope that I, as a child, was like, this is clearly the solution. My friend is upset at me. Let's hit her.
That is nuts.
That is
that
nuts.
You did that.
I did it. So I mean, I love those little kitschy elements. But at the same time, the music is awful.
Yeah, not
the music
memorable songs.
Is not like the score is great. There's like it's got this really hip late 60s jazz improvised score. But then they tried to take that style of jazz and put music to it, and it just zero. Like the songs had no choruses; they made no sense.
Yeah.
It was just really.
Isn't the
super
film
garbage.
also like 7 hours long?
It felt 7 hours long.
That's nuts.
What
that
is the
movie was,
runtime?
It's like a full. It's like an hour.
It's 94 minutes.
It's 94 minutes. It was too long.
That means if they were to show that on TV like they did for the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman,
Frosty the Snowman
it
is
had to be a
not
2-hour
a
movie
Rankin Bass
with
movie.
commercial.
It's not a rank. Yeah, I mean, it would have
That's
been pretty long.
nuts.
But anyway, yeah. So Mad Monster Party was my least favorite film. No, it's not. 'cause
That's
we
not
haven't
true.
talked about the
Stay
Evil Within.
tuned.
Okay, but following that was one of my favorite movies
Same.
of the fest, and that was Barbarella.
Man, how awesome was that seeing on the big screen?
I want you to repeat what you said in the panel because you said the most apt fucking thing you've ever said in your life. I hope you can remember it. Say it again.
I do.
Say it again.
This as soon as it came on, this sentiment hit me and it lingered. It stayed there in the forefront of my mind for the duration of the runtime, and that is that Barbarella is the porn spoof of Barbarella. It just feels like that, and I don't know. It was an awesome experience watching it on the big screen.
It was amazing.
I loved that screening.
So it takes. It was made in 1968.
Yeah.
What other film is 1968?
Planet of the Apes.
Yep.
Head, right? So it's a sci-fi film about this woman Barbarella. She lives in the 41st century where Earth has pretty much solved all war and everything is just really about love and transcendent intelligence and things like that. And Barbarella is an astronaut. Mm-hmm. And then a scientist, an evil scientist, Duran, goes missing. And so
Wait, Duran?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the group, that's where they got the name from this character.
Except for it's spelled it's spelled Durand. But when they say it sounds like Duran, and sometimes it sounds like Duran.
Hold on.
Like Kevin Durant.
Did Duran get their name from Barbarella?
Yes. Doesn't that
I'm hungry like a wolf.
Yeah.
Even more cachet.
Like Barbarella is.
Hmm?
Yes.
That's right, Brad. You weren't watching this with us.
He was at work.
Man, it was so fucking good. Continue, Lisa. Sorry.
So
I've seen it before.
So Barbarella goes off to she's issued some weapons, which is very archaic. They had to get, since Earth is over war, they had to get her weapons were on loan from the museum. And so she has a quick costume change and then zooms off into outer space.
Yes.
And she goes from, I guess, planet to planet, looking for Duran, following the clues. And she finds out that on other planets other than the Earth, her sexuality actually opens, so to speak, a lot of doors for her. And so she finds that she doesn't have to, like, the main weapon that she relies on throughout the film actually lies within herself, between her legs. So I love, because it's what I love about Barbarella, aside from the visuals, which are stunning.
Crazy good.
This film has a way better budget than the porn version of most films.
Yeah.
Where like they create these other worlds and they're totally immersive, and every place has like very distinct. I mean, they all look super 60s, but have a distinct visual effect. It's just really cool. But I love the late 60s portrayal of sex, and because even though this is an extremely sexy movie. You never actually, you don't see what you see in movies nowadays, which is like, a mushing butt. There's no mushing butts in this film.
Yeah.
Like, we see her, like, entering into the negotiations of a sexual act, and then the camera will pan away, and then we'll come back, and she's like wiping her brow and singing a song, like, and the sex is over.
Yeah.
But it's no less, in my opinion, sometimes even sexier than watching a mushing butt on the screen, or doing like the late 80s, early 90s sweaty silhouettes kind of thing. I thought it was just really fun and really cool.
There is nudity in this film, though.
Totally.
Crazy nudity. So many titties.
So many titties. Mostly Jane Fonda's, which are exquisite. Like, she is like, I mean, this must be peak Fonda, because she is like, mwah.
She's bad. Oh my goodness.
She is so stunning.
Yeah.
Rated PG, everybody.
That's the most nuts things to me. There were so many space titties in this movie, and this movie's PG.
You have to ask your parents before you see space titties.
Yeah.
I love that opening scene where she is floating in space and removing her astronaut suit.
Yeah.
Actually, did you know how they did that?
Yes. So she was they put her on. They filmed her. They were filming her top down. She was on a flat. She was on a clear surface. The camera was above her, and so she was basically on her side, taking her things off.
Yeah, I googled it. I googled it
okay.
after, and that is how they did it, which I think is great.
Yeah.
And they again use that, like, there's like this moment when she's getting in bed. And they decide to, for some reason, shoot her getting in bed from below. So you see her, like, fucking hot body mushed up against a piece of glass, which is, like, wonderful.
Yeah.
It's just really great.
And the guy that she's Duran, when she finds him, turns out he's the actual bad guy. He's going crazy, which also makes Barbarella not only the porn version of spoof of Barbarella, but also the porn spoof of Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, and I love his contraption.
Oh man!
So he has this. I guess it's like a musical instrument, but you put a lady inside of it, and you pleasure her until she dies. And I love that scene because of its commentary. It's a very 60s commentary on sexual repression, because so she goes into the machine and he's like playing the organ, and the machine is like pulsing and it's waving and pulsing, and like we're watching Jane Fonda go into like full on orgasm town, and she's like beating with sweat. Like, this is like, I mean, this is like beyond sexy, this scene. And then she defeats the machine by having just a bottomless pit, an unsatiable appetite for pleasure. And so the machine goes on the fritz. And his response to that is, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I was just like, this is the best. This is the best. This also sparked a really interesting conversation, I thought, on your panel, because of, like, Barbarella is this extremely sexualized character. It is very much a male fantasy. It's the director's a man, the writer's a man. So, like, you do have to take it with that perspective. But I thought that the fact that all of the social stigma of being, like, she's not going to be called a whore. Like, she like, and like all of the stigma is taken away from sex, and so she can do it in this liberated fashion where it's not traumatic to her. So she can use her sexuality, and she's like, a lot of times she seems very like, you could interpret it as naive, but like, it also can be considered in this society, like on Earth, like the physical act of sex doesn't exist anymore. They now use like this drug,
right?
And they also have a really great scene with that.
Demolition Man.
I really enjoy. So I don't know. I thought that it was a very progressive for the 60s and 70s, or leading into the 70s, very progressive way to explore this idea of taking the repression out of sex, which I thought was just exquisite.
I agree. I appreciated that as well. At one point, I know Robert Rodriguez was supposed to be remaking that. Like, I
don't want that to happen.
I just don't think it can exist that way.
Yeah.
Not just with Robert Rodriguez, but just the idea that, like, that concept is so of its time.
Right.
I think that it would be very hard to do now, especially with the fact that, you know, women are more empowered, and you know, they do have, there's still a lot of repression and a lot of slut shaming and blah blah blah, but it's not the same.
Well, I think you could do a socially conscious Barbarella, but it's not the film that would be made today.
It would not have. I mean, there's a lot.
Get
of
Jordan Peele on it.
And you had remarked recently, Lisa, about in your review of Atomic Blonde, how Charlize Theron was like a male character would do. She would go and bed these men and wouldn't be sexually repressed, or it wasn't made to have her feel slutty or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She would just do it like a guy would, without reprise or anything like that. And I think that's what Barbarella was doing, like, way ahead of his time.
Right, and I think that I don't know. I think that now I don't know. I don't know. I liked the clothes.
Well, now it would be like Atomic Blonde.
It would be like Atomic Blonde. You couldn't have a Barbarella character where she's an astronaut,
right.
but she's very, like, she could be perceived. She's very naive and very airheaded.
I mean, you would have to update it, but I don't
want to. I love it the way it is.
But I mean, I was just jokingly saying Jordan Peele's Barbarella, but that does interest me.
That sounds
now.
amazing.
I haven't seen Barbarella since I was a kid, when I had some parental guidance.
Wow.
But I mean, really, all I remember about it is the poster. You know, is the Boris Vallejo drawing.
Yeah, if
painting.
If we can get like our Alamo and One Loudon to screen that, it's definitely worth seeing on the big screen. That was such
stunning.
a treat. Yes,
it's colorful. I love just the images. There's like one of my favorite things is there was a bunch of like topless women lounging around, and they were smoking a water pipe, but inside the water pipe was a man.
Yeah,
and they
so
were
it's
just
like a giant man-filled hookah.
Smoking the essence of man. I mean, I just I don't know. It was just stunning.
There's so
you
many
get enough of that at home, Lisa.
Wow. All right.
Other people. So Jane Fonda was Barbarella. Another interesting person in the cast, Marcel Marceau, the one and only famous mime, plays Professor Ping in a speaking role.
Danger Diabolique himself is in it. John Philip Law as Pygar.
John Philip Law, beautiful man. Pygar, boring character. He plays the blind angel.
Yeah.
But also like the labyrinth, like where like
people are like infused with the rock.
Yeah, so like there's like there is this place that is everybody there is the essence of has embraced the essence of evil. Mm-hmm. So if you have any kind of goodness in you, you're relegated out to the labyrinths. Mm-hmm. And the labyrinths is like this dark place, and I guess if you stay there for very long, you get infused into the rock. And so there's like these beautiful people and beautiful images of these people inside the. I mean, it was just like. It was like a painting.
Yeah, so many good sci-fi concepts brought to life with, again, on practical sets with so much texture, and then that image and how the resolution it was projected was just, like you said, Lisa, the colors pop. It was such a treat actually to see on the big screen.
Mm-hmm. What a great transition, talking about texture and great sci-fi concepts. Mm-hmm. Next film, Darren, Brain Damage.
Yikes.
This is another one where Brad's like, this is probably going to be a vomit movie, and you shouldn't watch it. So I went back. I tried to watch it, and I got like 5 minutes in, and the two people are lying on the ground, and there's foam coming out of their mouth. And I'm like, why am I fucking stressing myself out? So I just left. So what do you think of Brain Damage, Darren?
Directed by Nancy Reagan.
Wait, what?
No, Say No to Drugs.
Oh, I was going to say, goddamn.
It's directed by Frank Henenlotter.
Yeah, he did Frankenhooker. That was a staple of my adolescent Man, how did I get off to Frankenhooker? That was nuts.
I've never seen Frankenhooker.
Wow. All right.
Homework.
Yeah. It was cool watching this with the audience, having them, seeing them respond to it in the way that they did. I personally didn't enjoy it all that much. I enjoyed the experience more so than the film. It's
Not buying the Arrow Blu-ray?
No. It's just, I don't know. Like I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't love it like some other people did. I don't know. Have you seen it?
No.
Oh, you weren't there that day. Right?
No.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, I was. I got there during the next movie. I got there just before that started.
Yeah, this guy. So I don't even remember. So this guy, this young kid ends up having this thing that looks like a blue and black Mr. Hanky with teeth. Inject this serum into his brain, and the serum goes into his brain, and it gives him this euphoric. Basically, it's like shooting LSD directly into his brain, and he gets this trippy high, and he becomes addicted to that. But this thing, Elmer, he has to feed on human brain, so he's got to feed this thing human brain so that this thing can live and produce more shit to squirt in his brain. So it's one of those 80s like really. This is on par with, I would say, the last Psychorama showing of Street Trash. Now, Street Trash is a whole other beast, but I would say this is you're in that same ballpark of let's just throw on like the craziest shit we could find, and I would say Street Trash certainly qualifies.
Well, if you go to IMDb and you look at the people who liked this, also liked Street Trash.
Yeah. Basket Case, also that guy from Basket Case makes a cameo. Shared universe. The main character, him and his girlfriend get on the subway car because he's about to eat her, or he's about to feed on her brains. And the guy from Basket Case gets on the subway and sits across from him. He has the basket in his lap, and he's just sitting there, and there's a little lock on the basket.
Seriously?
Latch. Yeah. And I was like, oh, shared universe, Basket Case, that's dope.
Take that, MCU.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. But I mean, everything. I mean, it's that type of movie, like a midnight screening type of movie or a horror film fest type of movie where, it's going to be divided. Either you can deal with it or it's too gross for you. I mean, it does have some outlandish, like, again, like, I appreciate like the practical effects. I mean, they were effective in that they were like gross and icky. But like tonally, that movie was like all over the place. You had, well, I don't want to say all over the place. It's just, it was schlocky, but the creature, Elmer, like it was, I don't want to say it was cool. Like it was like a long turd, like a long blue glowing turd. And then like it had these weird, beady, not beady eyes, but the eyes were slanted like a drawbridge opening. So they weren't like straight across horizontal. They were weird, and he had blue eyes, like a white, not white pupil, but he had the whites of his eyes, but he had like nice blue pupils.
Yeah, like I'm looking at an image, and they do look like Google eyes. Yeah. Like you would buy at like Michael's, but with eyelids.
And you see his face, and he talked like this.
It's a little sweet. He's got a little sweet face.
And this is how he talked. I'm going to feed on your brains. So can you give me some brains? He talked like that.
Darren,
so really
this
like
sounds great.
All right, well, get that Arrow video.
I'm going to.
But it was not my particular bag. But again, like I really enjoyed that experience of people watching it because like it was throwing people all over the place. Like there's this one scene. Do I want to spoil it? It's a BJ scene. I'll just say that. Yeah, and it's nuts. It's probably one of the most nuts thing I've ever seen, pun intended, at Psychorama over this past weekend. Yeah,
I'm sad I missed the BJ scene, but I'm glad I missed the V scene because I do not need that.
So, and then I guess there's like Brad, you made that joke about it being directed by Nancy Reagan. So I guess there's a commentary about like drugs and staying on the drugs. I said it at the Q&A, like this and Requiem for a Dream. Show these two movies in school and people will not do LSD.
Requiem for a Dream, also not VF.
Nope. So after that, we had Freaks. Man,
yes,
this
1932.
one was one of my favorites of the festival.
This was my favorite of the festival. Yeah. I had actually seen it before. Brad had shared it with me.
This was the first watch for me.
I love this movie.
I love this movie. So,
and I made it 10 minutes late to the showtime. Alamo still let me in.
But you got to see it.
Thank you, Alamo.
On the big
Well,
screen.
it's a festival.
Yeah, but I only missed 10 minutes. I only missed 10 minutes.
And you had your seat already. It's not like you'd be searching for your seat.
That's right.
But it's directed by Todd Browning, and Todd Browning was a circus person, and so he had lived amongst the people of the circus, and so the movie Freaks is about the people who would be considered circus freaks.
Right.
So like little people and the people who were called pinheads, who had abnormally small skulls, and people who were missing limbs and things like that. But what makes this movie really beautiful is that it's a relationship drama, and all of these people, extraordinary people, are presented in a very natural way. You see them living their lives, speaking to each other, eating dinner, all of this stuff.
Going through relationship drama, they still have feelings too.
And
the film,
and it's the normies, the normal people who really are the monsters of this film. And in making this film, Todd Browning had this vision of creating normalcy, creating a comfort of differently abled, extraordinary people.
Right.
Now, when Faye was doing the introduction for this film, she did mention that this film was not well received. People were really uncomfortable and horrified with what they saw. Actually, there after the initial screenings, there was a recut of this film in which the 20 minutes of the film were lost to time. They're completely gone. And people were theorizing that maybe the ending of this film was shot later and tacked on.
Well, the thing is, like the film, for the majority of the movie, never points its camera at its characters in a mocking fashion.
Absolutely not.
Or in a like, these are the villains, or these are you need to fear these people. They are, as Darren was saying, fully formed characters. They have arcs, but at that ending, when it becomes a revenge or a code of justice movie, when the so-called freaks descend upon the villain of the piece, that's when the camera treats these characters like monsters. It's shot in the rain. They're crawling through the mud. They have knives in their mouths, and it's like it's scary. It's for the first time in the entire film, the freaks of the movie are shot as creatures.
Right.
So watching it, on the big screen, you do feel as if this was made by another filmmaker.
Right. Yeah. The beginning of the end of the film and the end of the film go with this barker, this traditional circus barker, barking up a crowd to see something that's off screen, that's like in this pen. And in the beginning of the film, it's very foreboding. And he's talking about the code of the freaks, and if you offend one freak, you offend all of the freaks. So, but then the actual story of the film is there's this beautiful trapeze artist named Cleopatra, and she's known for being like this extraordinarily beautiful person. And she starts leading on there's like this little people couple, Hans and Frida.
Man, they were so pretty. Like, their faces. Oh.
Yeah, they look like little children.
Yeah.
And they're like both blonde. They're like this little match set. They're very, very cute, very beautiful people.
I loved Hans's posture and how he
he's
carried
a
himself.
grown-ass man.
I like how he carried himself. Yeah.
Yeah, very confident and really great actors. There are actually two, if you go back and you look at the IMDb, those two characters, they were acting. They were playing characters. They didn't use their actual names. Oh. Some of the other circus people did use their own names.
Okay.
But they were playing characters. But Cleopatra starts kind of teasing and leading on Hans, and Hans, being a man, getting attention from this gorgeous woman, decides to ignore the possibility that she might be teasing him and laughing at him behind his back. And then it turns out that Hans has inherited a great amount of money, and so then Cleopatra and goes into cahoots with the strong man Hercules, which I think, like, in terms of like the men we see as our strong men now, he's quite small. He's a small guy. They go into cahoots, and they plan to murder Hans to get this money.
Right.
Meanwhile, like, and then so we get to see all of the interactions. Frida, Hans's wife, is, finding, talking to the other women and all that stuff. But
she was so heartbreaking, man. I felt so bad for her.
Yeah, and I also really enjoyed the relationship of Frozzo. And what's the other girl's name?
Well, Frozzo is
the clown.
The clown, played by Wallace Ford, who's been in everything.
Right.
I can't remember what the girl's name is.
Venus, yeah.
Frozzo and Venus, where Frozzo is a normal person, but he's very comfortable with his community and the community of the extraordinary people. And Venus initially is very uncomfortable with Johnny and with the human torso and all that stuff. She's very uncomfortable, but then she sees how Frozzo interacts with them very naturally and very comfortably, and then she falls in love with Frozzo through those interactions, and so then she in a very natural way becomes very comfortable, and it's never pointed at. Like, she never sits down and goes, I was once really disturbed, but now I'm just comfortable. It's just, it happens like very, very naturally.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. But I like to, when I think about Freaks, I like to think about the alternate reality for Todd Browning. Like, what if Freaks, the film, did succeed in his initial vision of creating a safe space for differently abled people to perform.
Yeah.
And then maybe in films, we would see a greater variety of the human experience. Right. Because, I mean, there are, we just did our Game of Thrones cast. There are situations where we see little people. What is that guy's name?
Peter Dinklage.
Like Peter Dinklage. But, I mean, it's not every day where you get to see, a guy that can light a cigarette without, in a way that's natural.
The living torso. I mean, that scene where really the camera just shows a very simple act, in his day-to-day life. And again, it's not shot in a exploitative way. Right. It's so matter of fact. This is what how this guy lives. This is he has a life. He's going about his business. He's not below you on the evolutionary chain.
Right. Or Daisy and Violet, the conjoined twins, who they're having their relationship drama, and they need to, and they both have their relationships, and they do find a little comedy in, like, I want to hang out with Daisy, but Violet's always getting in the way, you know? But, I mean, it was very natural sister drama going on between them.
I was shocked, not really shocked, but it was interesting to see that when I was watching this, it, like, almost all of those characters reminded me of the cast from not this most recent season of American Horror Story, but the one before that, where it took place. The setting was the carnival. It might have been called American Horror Story Freaks, I think. It was the season before Asylum, which just almost every last one of the characters in this film, Freaks, there was a character mirroring that from the conjoined twins. The lady who, I can't remember her name. She's in every season of.
Jessica Lange.
No, not Jessica Lange. The younger lady. But there you had the bearded lady that was played by Kathy Bates this time, I believe. You had the conjoined twins. You had the people with the extra small. The heads were smaller.
Yeah, I've after watching that film, I did look up what that syndrome was called. No, I can't find it.
Microcephalia?
Yeah, microcephaly.
Even the small, there was a subplot with a smaller people couple in it. So watching that, I saw that it was interesting to see that American Horror Story paid homage to this film, obviously. And so, but again, this was a really compelling film. It was funny because Faye prefaced the screening with how, how shocking this film was, or how difficult this film was, or even if she was referencing how it was perceived back then. But I don't know, like, I was expecting, like, and I'm not trying to separate myself from other people and saying, well, I don't see them as different, but I really didn't feel that there was anything disturbing about the film. So it's hard to see. I mean,
it is a straight up.
It's like a slice of life.
It's well, yes, but I mean, it's a cuckold film, right? It's a film about deception and revenge. You've seen this story in a million mystery novels, crime novels,
right?
It's just what separates it from others is its setting,
right? And so but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and was able to find multiple emotional connections to multiple characters.
I don't think that the stigma of seeing disabled people on screen, people of size on screen, anybody less than stunning on the screen is very uncommon and contextualized. Right. So I love the idea behind, like, I love Todd Browning's intention behind it, and I think that, like, we should still be testing those boundaries of humanizing people on screen, on film.
I agree.
64 minutes, by the way.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's how long that movie is.
That's right. After that was
our secret screening. There was some issues with Boys in the Trees. They were having some technical issues, not on the Alamo's end, but we ended up getting a secret screening, which we will not tell you about. And then
it was awesome, though.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And then we got to see 68 Kill,
which I surprisingly enjoyed as well.
It was kind of cool getting to see it, since we did get to interview the guys from Snow Fort Pictures.
Yeah, I think they cranked out another fine quality indie feature. Might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I like these crazy type of stories when handled well, when you're given a central character and or peripheral characters that you can either gravitate towards, find something to like about, or find interesting and fun. And I think that this film had that. The main guy, I initially thought I was going to be irritated by him, but I ended up being on board with him.
He is so great, Matthew Gray Gubler, who plays Chip. I mean, and they call him Chip for a reason, and he is so utterly pathetic from the get-go. Right. You really kind of hate the guy.
Yeah.
But as he descends into hell, you can't help but root for him.
Yeah, and this was a film where I could not predict where this story was going to go, because it feels like it was going to adhere to similar tropes, but then it would take a sharp left turn, and it took like multiple left turns for me narratively that left me pretty surprised, and I appreciated that a lot.
This is a film that did manage to up the ante with each incident that transpired. Yeah. There's a definite crescendo of madness in this film.
Yeah.
That I found really entertaining.
Yeah.
And it's another movie where, as we were saying with like Petey Wheatstraw in that opening scene, if you're not on board 10 minutes into this movie, just get off.
Right.
But Travis Stevens and David Lawson of Snow Fort Pictures, they're making some memorable movies over at Snow Fort Pictures. And if you haven't listened to our interview cast with them, our ItMod Spotlight, not Spotlight, what are we calling those? Chatcast. Mm-hmm. Our Chatcast with the Snow Fort Picture guys. Do yourself a favor and then go hunt down their movies. And Billy Dass, the Indie Dork, did an interview with Trent Haga and the cast of 68 Kill for Film School Rejects. And that's a really wonderful read as well. Truly demented, delightful filmmakers.
Yeah. And that went over well with the crowd.
Yeah, the crowd really seems to like it. There were some. I found that there were some motivational issues. I was a little bit disappointed with his relationship with Violet. I thought that their level of intimacy so quickly, I think, undermined her as a character.
Yeah,
a little bit, but it does pay off in a terrible way.
Yeah, but I think that you could have still had that payoff without that. Like, he still could have worshipped her without having that.
With her.
Not even that, but them exchanging their stories. I think that he could have opened. Like, I felt like she, considering what she had been through,
right?
I felt like she.
Why did she sleep with him?
That it's not even the sleeping with him issue. To me, it's when they're lying and looking deep into each other's eyes and telling each other their life struggles. Mm-hmm. I thought that, considering the circumstances in which she met him and the endeavor that they were undergoing, it didn't feel natural for her to go like, well, here is my internal struggle and I'm going to open up to you right now. Yeah. Because I think that's a different level of intimacy that you reach with a romantic partner, not just somebody that you've just met and you're fucking. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that you still could have had where he ends up with her in the end of the film,
right?
With of her being on this exquisite pedestal without her giving away her power in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But we did get to see Sheila Vand. We saw her in Girl Who Walks Home Alone at Night. And we get to see her boobs. So that was really great.
She was great in this. And the whole time I was watching, I was like, I've seen her somewhere before. Where is she from?
Women Who Kill.
Yep.
She's also from Women Who Kill. That's right.
Yep.
But I think that she, we have seen her in many heavy eyeliner roles. Mm-hmm. But I think that she can do great things.
Yeah. I dug it. I dug the film. I wish the festival had ended with this film. It would have been for me. It would have been an entertaining and high note. But unfortunately, we had another film left. This was Brad's favorite film of the festival.
No, I don't even want to talk about it.
I don't understand why. You have to explain. You have to talk about it. You got to tell me why you love it so much. I don't even understand your Letterboxd rating. Like, I need answers.
I give 1 star.
2017's The Evil Within.
Oh my god!
You were so excited because it starred.
I was excited because I'd seen a few stills. I love Michael Berryman from The Hills Have Eyes and a billion other great gore films.
Yep.
He's the ghost demon in this film.
He's the recognizable actor in the film?
No, there's also Sean Patrick Flannery, young Indiana Jones.
That I didn't recognize until like the credits.
There's also Dina Meyer from Starship Troopers.
Yeah, Rico. Not Rico.
Kim Darby from the original True Grit is in this film. Okay.
All right.
But 1 second into the film, you knew it was not going to be a good show.
Did you?
Oh my god.
I mean, from the credit, from the title card.
Whoops! It looked like
when The Evil Within popped up. You're like, ooh.
It's like one of those stock title creators.
No, I mean, it looks like it was done on a MacBook Generation 1
iMovie.
Yeah, and then it kicks into a dream sequence with some really laughable narration. From the lead actor, Frederick Kohler, who also, by the way, not unrecognizable. He's from Oz. He plays J.K. Simmons' son in Oz, sir.
Okay.
And he's leading this film. Yeah, he's in Death Race, the Paul W.S. Anderson version.
Oh.
So you've seen him before.
Oh. He's in American Horror Story.
He's an American Horror Story, Darren.
About that show.
But unfortunately, this movie... I mean, it is cobbled together with a lot of passion, I'm sure, from Andrew Getty, who died before the film could even come out.
That's unfortunate.
It's his one film that he was able to make. So, this is his life's work.
And you can feel it. It's very...
It's homegrown.
It's homegrown, but the word I'm thinking about is
It's like The Room?
aspirational. Not aspirational, but like ambitious.
Oh,
It's
ambitious.
a really ambitious film, but I think that it's trying to tell a story that's more complicated and more sophisticated than maybe he was ready to tell.
I mean, I legitimately thought about The Room while watching this movie.
Yeah.
It felt like Tommy Wiseau, he's got the cash and the passion and zero talent.
It's you do get this. You it feels like somebody tripping over themselves.
Now, I do think that, its cast is solid. I mean, these are real deal actors who are performing in an atrocity, like a cinematic atrocity.
So at the beginning of the film, they set up that the main character has had an incident like early in his life where he can't tell the difference between dreams and reality. So there are a lot of visuals in this film where you go like, is this really happening? Is this not really happening? Which should enhance the fact that it's completely not, like, at times just completely really bizarre and non-linear.
And there are some images, there's some spider stuff going on, Brian.
Oh, Brian would not like this movie.
You would not like the spider stuff.
This is not SF.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to have to steer clear.
Cool.
Yeah, but then they added this element of the main character is mentally disabled. And when I'm talking about freaks and the value of talking about differently abled people in film, this is not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This is because I think that maybe not enough research was put into what it is. It turns out that he has a traumatic brain injury, but a lot of his symptoms are not aligned with what traumatic brain injury is, and I think a lot of the performance is
based on life goes on.
Yeah, there's like definitely like some Down syndrome elements, but it's just like the performance is very awkward and
aggressive
and under researched, and then he also has some kind of like fucking crazy schizophrenia, and I'm just like, ugh.
But mostly it was just horrible.
It was horrible. The script made no sense, and then also his brother was having some kind of like hallucinations and shit. It was bizarre.
So yeah, we endured. We watched The Evil Within.
Yeah.
But during that I had they had a theme menu, as they want to do at Alamo Winchester Film Festivals, and I had the Death by Chocolate Martini, and it was delicious.
Amazing. So there's a positive.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the final film of the festival. I had fun, ups and downs and all. I want to again say thank you to the Alamo Drafthouse in Winchester, Psycho Cinema for your gracious hospitality, Faye for putting together a great show and a great lineup. And we look forward to the next one. Always a blast to go out to the Alamo and just sit in the movie theater for 2 or 3 days
and just be part of a
movies.
Film community.
Yep.
Like just the opportunity to talk about the films, whether you loved it or not, is always really interesting and fun.
Yes.
And Lisa just had revenge on Brian for talking about Game of Thrones for too long. Take that, Brian.
So top an hour and a half, Brian. So actually that was 2 hours. Plus Brian's 30 minutes. All right. So yeah, that's gonna do it for our weekend dork. I just want to tag on. I saw Logan Lucky, and that's one of my favorite movies of the summer. I really enjoyed. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but I had a great time with that film. I have a daughter, and so Channing Tatum's relationship with his little girl was just, it tugged at my strings. I just loved it so much. It's the best.
Is that your West Virginia accent?
That's somebody from somewhere. So yeah.
My name is Joe Bang.
It's good.
You can follow the podcast at ItModcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We got a Fistful of Summer coming up Friday. We are at the end of our summer of cinema, so we will be giving you our top 5 films of this past summer. So stay tuned for that. We got our homework cast coming in the middle of the week. Finally, Lisa gets to review White Man Can't Jump and have a discussion with Brian Young, who gave her that for her homework assignment.
Thank you, Brian.
You can follow him at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. He was here for this recording the whole time. Lisa is at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Brad Gullickson is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untappd. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. And until next time.